Time for street talk. Well, what do we think about Coronation Street this week? Gemma?
Mixed bag.
Mixed bag indeed. Blimey, wasn't Thursday's episode the absolute pits? And that's right, Thursdays, because we didn't have Corrie on Wednesday this week because it was the football.
Yes,
but
the
at least
football.
at least it wasn't cancelled outright. So we had a lovely April Fool's Day episode on Thursday, and literally I thought that was Coronation Street's joke that they played on us because I couldn't be doing with Thursday's Coronation Street because of this bloody Billy storyline.
Right, we shall strike it from the record.
We can't. We have to talk about it. In fact, we got that as our first story this week. Billy No Dates, I've called it. Although that more described his situation at the beginning of the week, but never mind. But it certainly perked up on tonight's episode, didn't it? And I think I'm right in saying that neither Billy nor Paul were in it, so I don't know whether there's some kind of correlation there.
Yeah, could there be?
It was more about Todd getting his job at the funeral parlour, which was a million times more exciting, I think.
It was, honestly.
I even came up with a storyline title for those two working together, Snarky and George.
Yes, I love it.
And that is a reference that people of a certain age will get.
Hopefully.
And that certain age is our age, I guess.
If you don't know what Sharky and George are, you need to look it up because it had a banging theme tune.
It did have a banging theme tune, but I hear that it is a French-Canadian production, so I'm hoping that a good proportion of our listeners will get it. But as I say, it's a bit old now. Anyway, it was great. Who's the Granddaddy is going to be our next storyline because there were massive revelations in the Bailey house. Well, not to us, but to Michael, I suppose, on Monday. Then we have got, Seb-Nina Budding. Do you remember the Seb-Alina Budding storyline? Well, he's got a new girl and it is Nina. So Seb and Nina Budding. Also, we've put the Asher and Corey stuff in there. I haven't come up with the title. Asher, Corey's on where she left off.
Ugh.
We've then got the Alina, Tyrone and Fizz storyline, and it seems that Alina is trying to cut ties with him. Will she be successful in this? I'm not so sure.
I hope so.
Faye, put away is the story of Faye potentially going behind bars for a year. I don't know whether I would really notice whether she was off screen for a year.
I don't think she's been around for a year, is she?
And then a little bit of the Leanne of Duty and their Kelly story to tie things up at the end. Gemma, I can't do it. I cannot bring myself to do the synopsis for the Billy story, so I pass it over to you. Leave it in your very capable hands.
I can't say that I'm the best person for this because I don't know how much of this I was following because it was so boring. I sort of forgot to watch it.
It was really bad. Jamie, you were working out our what was it you were doing with working out taxes or something on Wednesday?
I was trying to work out the electricity bill.
That's right, you were, weren't you?
I can't understand it. We've paid them £120, and then we had to pay them £141 a month. For 5 months, because they moved us to somebody new, and we've used less than £100 worth of electricity and gas every month, and we still owe them £30. I can't understand. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. Yeah,
this was still more interesting than what was going on Coronation Street on Wednesday. Gemma's head was just buried in bills.
It involves me getting money or giving money to somebody that I don't want to, so I'm always going to pay more attention to that.
Well, from bills to Billies. Gemma, let's see how well you can sound like you know what you're talking about when you're reading out my notes there.
Billy has gone down in everybody's estimations. Sad.
The internet seems to hate Billy
at
the moment. I don't know whether it's just the corners of the internet that we frequent.
See, this is the thing, right? I can get right on board with hating the character and thinking they're boring and crap, but when everybody does it, it starts to feel like bullying and really mean, even though they're not real people.
I know, a bit of Billy bullying. A bit of Billy bullying, isn't it?
And a pack of pickled peppers.
It's such a shame because I used to really, really like Billy as a character, and
honestly, since he
I'm
got into drugs,
finding it difficult to let go because I want to like him.
Of wanting to like him.
Yeah, because I still really, really want to, and you know he had a few alright scenes this week, but I can completely see where all the hate for him is coming from. The way
he's so sanctimonious and like really hypocritical. It's just not a good look for a vicar.
But the problem is,
although that is generally there.
I think some people would. The problem is, I think we're supposed to like him.
Yeah, I don't know because obviously Daniel Brocklebank seems like a really charming and lovely guy, and he brings that warmth to Todd. That's why Todd likes him. To Billy, but it just doesn't. It doesn't because he seems overly nice at the moment. It just feels like he's like screwing things up and then going like, but I'm a nice guy. Look at my smile.
We're supposed to be suspicious of Todd and not really like him. We're supposed to feel sorry for Paul, the wronged one in this, and we're just supposed to. I think we're supposed to feel sorry for Billy, but also kind of happy maybe that he's found happiness. And I don't feel that. I'm kind of still cheering Todd along.
Yeah, I want Todd.
Todd is by far the best part of this little trio.
That's why it was great on
Paul,
Friday.
Paul's better when he's not with Billy and Todd. I mean, we had a brief moment of respite from it a few weeks ago, didn't we? Where we had those scenes with the Baileys and with Daniel, but put him back in the mix with Billy and Todd, it just drags him down.
Yeah, get rid of Paul, it's a shame because the romance stories.
And I like Peter Ash as well, and I like that he is just as much into Nintendo as me.
Wow.
I can't if you believe his social media. And Billy, I really want to like, but this just it's just not doing it for me.
It's really especially tragic when you're like really willing somebody to do well, and it's like you like. Do we owe these people our goodwill? You know, I want everyone to do well. They're not real people, but I want for the actors
We're talking about
and the producers for sake for them to achieve their goals, because if they do, then we'll all enjoy ourselves, won't we?
Yeah.
But Billy, I just want him to be fired into the sun with a big cannon or something.
I don't, and that's what I was saying about not being able to let go. I want him to be redeemed. I want him to not be with. Definitely, I don't want him to be with Paul. I actually quite like the idea of him being with Todd, and maybe that's just, it brings back memories of happier times when those two were together. And I know it was old Todd then, but I think that's much more exciting a pairing than Billy and Paul, which just
now Todd's got his claws
into
Billy. Do you think that that's his end goal, or do you think that he has another trick up his sleeve?
No, let's tell you what.
Well, should we talk about what happened?
Let's say what happened first, and then we will share theories, thoughts.
You said you didn't like this storyline, you found it really boring, but I honestly think this has generated the most discussion and the most interest this week.
Yeah.
So, what are we sort of saying it's not that boring, or what? Because I said to you, when something's annoying to you, it's not necessarily a bad thing for the show. Like, the show thrives on sometimes that kind of negative attention and riling people up.
But only if they want to rile this up. But this doesn't.
I don't know. I think that they're being provocative.
I don't know.
Okay, well, I hope it's part of a grand plan.
What has happened this week? Remind our dear viewers, just in case they drifted off to sleep.
Like you said, Todd's the best part of this whole thing. So the bits with Todd in were actually interesting. So on Monday, he's got this job offer in Bromsgrove, his mate's offering to him, and he says...
I feel really bad for any viewers in Bromsgrove this week, because whenever anybody mentioned it, it was like, oh, Bromsgrove.
Who want to go there for?
Which is, do you know where Bromsgrove is?
No.
It is in the Midlands.
Is it?
Yes.
Really? I thought it was somewhere...
Well, I don't know. I just googled it, so it's apparently
Bromsgrove,
near the place of my birth.
Wow. He turns down the job there because he doesn't want to go to Bromsgrove. Who would? Even people in Bromsgrove apparently hate it. He says to Eileen he considered going because of all this aggro he's had with Billy, and Eileen suddenly, out of nowhere, this was really irritating to me, decided that her only goal in life is to keep her son under her roof because she's missed him so very much, and she just loves him, a man in his 30s living in her house.
I don't know. This made sense to me.
No, I thought
the fact that up until a few months ago, she was worried that he was dead or something, and she's only just got him back. Yada yada. I'm not surprised that she
can live without him. That's what I'm saying.
She could, but I'm not surprised that she doesn't want him moving away.
Don't force your grown child to live in your house with you by guilt tripping them. It doesn't make any sense. Most parents can't wait for you to leave. So anyway, Paul comes, and don't you think that Eileen is of the ilk that, when you get to university, I give you a frying pan and a £5 note, you get out of my house, never come back?
I think it may be, but that's not what it has, She's also of the ilk that has kept Todd and, for a long time, Jason living there with her.
She's kind of a weird boomerang woman. Like, one minute she hates you, and the next minute she doesn't want you to ever leave the house.
And she likes a full house, doesn't she?
I think she's got a scam going on. So she says, look, don't let Billy put you off living with me, your lovely mumsy moo. I made you a moussaka, remember? So Paul comes into the factory to clear his locker out because he's left. He might have forgotten.
I don't know how everyone works there anymore. Why is it taking him so long to clear his locker out there?
Todd asks him about Jimmy, who is the guy that he was dating. And he says,
Jimmy with an I on the end, as in Jimmy Harkishin.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
nice tribute.
Sort of
Apparently, he was a bit too keen, and he doesn't know if he wants to see him again or not. And then Paul sees Billy in the cafe, and it all gets really awkward. And Paul thinks Billy's patronising him, and he's like, "Oh, how did you get on with this guy?" And he's like, "Look, leave me alone." Billy sees Todd later and says, "Oh, I just made an idiot of myself in front of Paul. I think I still care for him." And Todd offers a sympathetic ear. So at this point, Billy's not dating anybody, right?
Correct.
And he broke up with Paul because Billy managed to get them apart. Yes?
Yes.
I've forgotten how.
What? No, Todd
Broke them up.
It was when that bloke went and smashed up the piano, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Right, Todd tells Eileen...
The problem with this, again, is that it's been, month and a half, 2 months or so since that happened, I think. And the details I'm forgetting.
Todd tells Eileen he's going to go to Bromsgrove and take this job because it's too complicated being around here. And he sort of like smirks as he goes into the kitchen, so you can tell this is all part of his plan. So Eileen goes and moans to Billy and says that you have forced Todd to go to Bromsgrove of all places. Billy catches up with Todd and says, "Don't leave me." And Todd says there's only one thing that would stop me going to Bromsgrove, and that is if you take me back because I still love you.
Do you think we have any listeners in Bromsgrove? If you're listening to this and you're from
Bromsgrove
Bromsgrove, yeah, well, is it as bad as Corrie makes out?
Should we go there for a socially distanced fan meetup?
Next time we go up to the Midlands to see my dad, maybe we can pop over to Bromsgrove and see what the fuss is about.
See where Todd could go for a job.
I can't remember whether he even said what the job was.
It's going to be double the amount he's getting down here, apparently. Up there, I mean. Billy says, "Todd, you're just trying to manipulate me." And he's like, no, why would you say that? I'm putting my feelings on the line here. And Billy gets all riled up and he says, "How dare you speak to me about that? You abandoned Summer all those years ago. You don't care about anybody." And then Summer's like, "Well, did somebody say my name?" Todd takes Summer into the cafe and explains to her what's happened, and he wants to go to Bromsgrove, and she's upset, as anyone would be, and says, "Look, I didn't mean to go. I wanted Billy to stop me, but he won't. He's so mean. And he came on to me a few months ago, and he made me think he loves me, but he doesn't because he's so cruel." Then Todd ends up with Paul in the pub, and Paul's like, "Oh no, what's going on?" He's really so dumb. Todd says, as soon as Billy realises Paul doesn't need him anymore, the sooner he'll leave you alone, I think.
Yeah. He tells Paul, "Look, if you want to cut ties with Billy, go and tell him.
Go to Bromsgrove, that's what I'm going to do."
Yeah.
Summer reports back to Billy and says, "Do you have feelings for Todd?" He's like, "Of course. It doesn't mean that I'm going to act on them." And he says, "What?" She says, "What about Paul?" And he says, "Oh, I don't want to hurt him either." And Summer says, "Look, you're hurting both of them because you're not explaining anything and nobody knows what's going on."
Must be such a burden to be a hot vicar and have two people
fighting over you.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it must be such a burden to be a child involved in the sex lives of 3 useless adults.
I know. She seems to be the most mature one out of the lot, doesn't she?
Yeah, running around between everybody, giving each other messages like, "Oh, Billy, Todd gave me this to give to you. It's a bit of paper. It says, 'Do you like me? Yes or no?' You've got to tick which one." And Billy's like, "Oh, Summer. Oh, I don't know which one. Oh, I'll tick in the middle. Take it back." Mixed messages. So, Todd spies on Paul, telling Billy that he's moved on and he's going to see Jimmy tonight. And Paul walks off because Billy can't tell him how he feels. And then Todd comes in and says, "Come back to mine." So they go back, and Billy admits to Todd that he's still got feelings for Paul. So maybe Todd should go to Bromsgrove. And Todd can't believe this because his bluff has been called. And this isn't his plan at all. We can see. But this is the thing with Todd. I always think he's got another double bluff up his sleeve. So did
I. And then that's one of the things I really do like about him. I just can't figure him out. You really can't read him. You don't know how to trust him. I don't know what his motivations are.
Honestly, that's a good thing that Gareth Peirce has managed to capture about this character. That it's one of the main traits of Todd is that you never know what he's up to.
Yeah, because when all this time this has been going on, it's like Does Todd actually fancy Billy? Does he want to
We
get back with
can't-
Billy,
you
or does he
can't
just want to
tell.
screw things up for him and Paul? Does he maybe want to have a crack at Paul himself? You just
know.
don't know. And it did feel this week that he did really love Billy. But if you turn around next week and, you pulls the rug out from underneath him, it wouldn't surprise me.
No. Eileen finds Todd moping in the dark, and he's like, "Oh, this job was just a thing I did to try to trick Billy, and I tried to manipulate him, and it's all backfired, and now I'm definitely going to Bromsgrove." And I'm watching this going, "Oh, I don't know.
I know.
Are you lying again? I don't know." I never believe anything he says. That's why I really find him fascinating. So on Thursday, Eileen is still
I've
trying.
written Wednesday on all my notes this week.
Eileen is still trying to persuade Todd to stay, but he's like, no.
We said after Thursday's episode, it felt like we should have been going off and recording the podcast at that point, didn't it? It was the end of the week. It's an hour-long episode.
I've done all my work.
Yeah, not going into work the next day.
Yeah, it was very discombobulating. So, Paul's had a restless night. Billy comes into the cafe and says, "How was your date?" And Paul's a bit cagey, says, "Oh, it went really well." And Billy's like, "Well, I wish you well and good luck."
But he looks sad.
Oh, sad. Todd goes to the factory and says to Sarah, "I'm leaving." And she says, "Oh, that's sad." And he's like, "Yeah, now." And she says, "What? No, you're not. You've got 2 weeks. You've got to work your notice out." And he says, "No, I'm not. I'm going to go now because I'm sad and heartbroken."
I don't know where this 2-week notice period is all the other times when characters need to do a sudden flit.
This is the first time anyone's actually objected to somebody saying, "I'm leaving tomorrow."
I think they even mentioned about Paul quitting his job at the factory, and she was like, "Oh, there's different circumstances for him."
Well,
or
it was.
something.
It literally is like anyone can put stuff in a box.
Yeah.
The talents of Paul are not in boxing things up. And she says, "Oh, he's such a stellar salesman." I really think Todd would be a fantastic salesman because he could just...
Yeah, I don't know whether we actually saw him
manipulate
doing
people.
any selling at the factory, did we? I mean,
You never see anybody doing anything, and it would be so easy.
Very good point.
Be so easy to have them on the phone doing funny sales calls, like in the office or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of potential with his new job, at least, isn't there? He showed his panache as a salesman.
Yes,
just
true.
to that grieving widow this evening.
Spoiler.
Well,
I want more people on the phone and more talk of gussets. There's no point having a Nicker factory unless you're gonna have people on the phone getting mad about gussets. So she's like, fine. She gets really mad, and then she's like, "I don't care. I'll replace you. Whatever. Bye." Then we get Summer and
Toya,
Eileen.
do you want to be sales?
I am sales. Oh, what? You haven't made any sales the whole time you've been here. I thought that you were HR. So, Summer and Eileen are upset. Todd's getting ready to leave. He's like, I'm really going. I'm so mad.
Anyone want to hug me?
Anyone want to say
No.
goodbye? Paul is moping around outside the corner shop with Daniel. He's like, because don't forget, Daniel and Paul now live together.
Yes.
After he made a terrible job of fixing Daniel's
botched up his cupboard, didn't he?
Cupboard
Kitchen
door.
cupboard.
He says, "Declare your love to Billy. What have you got to lose?" So Billy comes home. He's had a hard morning. Apparently the church has fallen down, which seems to me to be a far more drastic problem than anything else that's going on. But he's like, "Nah, it's just one of those things, churches always..."
Love life first.
Yes.
Tumble down church second.
Make one of those thermometers with the money amounts to get get a new roof. Summer says, "Todd's leaving." And he's like, or Todd's left even. And he's like, "Oh, that's sad. We'll miss him, won't we?" Summer says, I think you still love him. You should go and see if you can catch him before he leaves and tell him. So Paul runs.
It's all right, we're halfway through Wednesday now.
Billy comes running. This is more interesting to read this than it was to watch it. I don't know what was.
It's my skill as a synopsizer.
Yeah. Billy runs out to go and catch up with Todd, and Paul finds him and says, "I don't really like Jimmy. In fact, actually, I was on my own last night. I just wanted you to be jealous."
Because Paul stops him because he's coming down to run to the tram stop, and Paul's there, isn't he? Yeah.
I thought I said
His
that.
head all in a spin again.
He's like, "I wanted you to be jealous. I love you. I want you back." And Billy's like, "Oh, for God's sake. No, I can't trust you anymore. You lied to me about Jimmy." Then he runs off, finds Todd, who's been standing outside the tram shop probably for all morning.
He's trying to figure out how to get up to the platform.
He's like, "I've been in that hole, and there's nothing there, and people come in and out of it. That's what I don't understand. And didn't somebody get mugged in there the other day?
I think
God
it's like
knows where.
Hogwarts in there, isn't it? You just have to take a run.
You need flu
through
powder.
No, not Hogwarts. Sorry, platform 9 3/4. You just have to.
You have to
get your trolley and just believe you can do it and run in.
It in the right tile, and then you just sort of whoop
you
through.
appear up on the platform.
That's a reference to the fact that the set doesn't go anywhere in case
It's
anybody
just a
wanted.
cupboard.
Yeah,
A tiled cupboard.
yeah, a lovely tiled cupboard. You could make that into a nice utility room. You put a nice sink in there.
Toilet.
Yeah, why not? I've lost where I am. That's why I'm talking about toilets.
I don't know where you are. Anyway, Todd's saying that he needs to go.
No. He's like, please don't go. And Todd's like, no. Bromsgrove needs me. Oh, actually, and he's like going, I've got to go. My tram's in 3 minutes. And I knew he wasn't getting on the tram, but I was getting really anxious. Like, he's going to miss his bloody tram. It's 3 minutes. You should be on the platform by now. You've got to walk up the stairs. I know there's nothing there, but you know the platform's up in the air and you're down on the floor, don't you? Get up there. It's 3 minutes. It's going to be there before 3 minutes, probably. And then you'll get there and the doors will close and you'll look like a right twonk.
Well, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, does he?
No.
Does not go to Bromsgrove.
Doesn't go.
He stays. They go to the Rovers
He's heard
together.
bad things about Bromsgrove all day long. So they're going to give things another go. They go and they find Paul and the Rovers and they say, Paul, we're giving things another go. And Paul says, I'm dead angry about this. I can't believe you've fallen for his manipulations. And then he whinges at Gemma about it and says, Todd set this whole thing with Jimmy up to get me to look bad or something. And Gemma's like, yes, he is quite manipulative. He could be onto something there. Todd and Billy go back to the flat. Todd is still moping because people are like, oh, they can't see past old Todd.
They literally said something like that, didn't they?
Very ironic.
A little
Bit
sly
meta.
nod and a wink there. It was a slightly meta.
So then we see Paul moping around in the street and he looks up like a tiny orphan. He looks up like the orphan on Christmas morning outside of, what's his face?
Scrooge's window.
Scrooge. You, young boy, is the goose still a debs?
What day is it today? It's April Fool's Day.
Yeah, you dumped. Closes the curtains and he's all sad because Todd drew the curtains in Billy's flat and he's left there.
Hubba hubba.
Like the sad bunny.
Might as well
Bunny's
have had his
picnic.
top off.
Yeah, why not? Maybe he's got it in his contract. No topless.
Like, have we had a topless Todd? I have a feeling we have.
You can do without all of that, thanks. On Friday, Summer is thrilled to hear that Billy and Todd were back together, and I can't believe she went off somewhere, didn't she? I think she went to a sleepover and they didn't bother telling her. She spent all night, and apparently she was devastated at the fact that Billy, her basically adopted father, has left for Bromsgrove, never to return.
Todd was going to leave for Bromsgrove.
Todd, that's what did I say?
You said Billy.
Well, yeah, Todd's supposed to be going to Bromsgrove and she was devastated. And then he just changed his mind and let her be at a sleepover all day. And she obviously didn't give a crap about it because you'd think she'd be sad. But no, she had a great time. And she's just like, oh, brilliant news.
I think they quite often do that on Coronation Street when there's half of a family, have some kind of decision or revelation or something at bedtime. And then it's like just casually brought up over breakfast the next day.
Okay, pass the toast. She feels a bit bad for Paul. Billy says Paul understands that Todd has always been the one for him. What a bitchy thing to say. Eileen's chuffed because he's not going to leave. And she says, you need to go to grovel to Sarah for your job back. It doesn't work. She's not having him back.
We don't see any of that, though, which is odd. No Sarah Lou today.
Then, new set alert. This is brilliant. I love this. George has opened his new funeral parlour on Victoria Street.
Yes,
next to the
council
park.
building. We haven't seen the outside of it yet.
No, I would
I'm
like to
looking
see the
forward to
exterior.
seeing it.
I am so excited about this. This is great. He's opening on Wednesday and he's just setting everything up. But his assistant, you wouldn't believe it, he's only gone and left him for a big chain. There's an opening in the funeral parlour. Todd comes round.
If I was Todd, I'd be very wary about this because, is this the same assistant who couldn't drive the hearse a few weeks ago? Or is this somebody else as well? It's what's going on?
It's George Shuttleworth, the Meghan Markle of Coronation Street. All of his staff keeps disappearing mysteriously because of his bad behaviour.
I think that he's just trying to drum up business for himself by killing off all his old assistants.
Allegedly.
Yeah, well, it would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Nobody's dying, kill off an assistant and get the grieving family to pay for it.
Allegedly.
Conspiracy.
Oh yes, I love this. And who
Shuttle
better
them
to
off.
help than Todd? So Todd comes around and says, "Oh, my mum says you're looking for work," and George says, "I haven't got time to train you, and I'm not interested." But meanwhile, he goes and he's like,
He says it very loudly next to this grieving woman who.
yeah, and he walks
So-
off and leaves Todd there with this woman. She's not grieving. I think she's buying herself a funeral.
Oh, is she?
I think she's getting herself a funeral plan.
Oh, yeah, you might be right.
So he walks off and's like...
Grieving for her future self is what I meant to say.
Oh, isn't
of
that
course.
just what life's about?
George has got his phone's ringing in the back.
He goes off and leaves Todd there, and Todd comes over and says, "Hello, I'm the new assistant." And she's like, yes, I didn't hear you being told to leave.
Yeah, half a metre away from me.
So he upsells her on her funeral plan, and George is like, this is the sort of go-get-em attitude that I really need in a funeral parlour. You're the perfect person, considering that you were too tactless for Tracy in the florists. You're going to be fantastic here.
Yeah.
And do you think he'll be able to get a nice discount off Tracy by sweet-talking her for the funeral flowers? Because I do.
Maybe. Well, George did say a few weeks ago this was the perfect place with all the local amenities.
Yeah.
So that was a positive end to a naff story, wasn't it?
You got your pub for your grieving, your wake. You got your garden to scatter the ashes in. You got your local cart for deliciously discounted fair trade
your
food.
funeral curry.
You got your funeral kebabs around the corner.
Yeah.
You got your funeral cafe with a funeral lady working behind the counter.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, let's go talk about that a bit first then, because that was the bit that excited us the most. Just the fact that we got this new set. Very nice, wasn't it?
Lovely,
it was.
lovingly designed.
What I liked most about it was the fact that Coronation Street has actually put some pictures on their social media about it, which they don't often do they? It feels like this was a bit new today. They put like 7, 8 or so behind the scenes shots of the new funeral parlour, all different angles and everything. It's very traditional.
It's very Victorian looking. It's got that green classic lawyer office lamp and mahogany wood stuff everywhere, and urns in nice display cases, and there's a nice lily painted on a stained glass window.
Yeah, but if you check it out on Corrie's social media on their Instagram, there's like behind the scenes sketches of all the different of like the building. I've never seen this from another set before. There's pictures from like Midway designing it. There's pictures of the stained glass windows, like you said.
Got lovely. It's lovely green. It's green and cream, isn't it?
Yes.
And orange.
It's not really to my personal taste, but it looks like I would imagine a funeral parlour would.
You don't want to come into a funeral parlour and it looks like a blooming Starbucks.
It's like, I could stay here for hours.
Yeah.
What I really like as well, and they highlighted this in one of the pictures. There's that little picture of Archie on one of the shelves, but also a really cool old drawing from this 100 years ago. It's supposed to be of Shuttleworth's funeral parlours with one of those old cars next to it. They've really done a good job of making it feel like a real place, haven't they?
Yeah, I love it.
I'm looking forward to seeing more scenes there. The fact that they've got they've gone to the trouble of doing this makes it sound like we're going to be seeing a lot in here.
Yes,
and it makes sense to have a funeral parlour on Coronation Street. We talked about it a few months ago when
I said I wasn't sure.
The idea was mooted.
I said I wasn't really sure, but now Todd's going to be working there. I am completely on board with this. It's going to be so many hilarious, really inappropriate things that happen.
Well, this is my slight worry. I mean, I didn't particularly have a problem, I don't think, with the comediness of Ted's funeral.
No.
It was everything else surrounding it that I didn't like, but I don't know whether some viewers will be a bit
Some people are going to be offended
sensitive
by this, for sure, because we had the people saying that it was inappropriate for them to do the funeral hijinks. So having a funeral parlour hijinks certainly not going to be any better, is it?
I just think it's a genius idea to put him there, because he's literally going to be conning the mourners, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's also the fact that he seems to have, I know he has feelings and everything, but I think that he'd be absolutely fine, working with the dead bodies and everything. I think he can turn off his human
there
instincts.
will be a mortuary there, won't there?
Yeah, George says he got the mortuary down the left, the chapel arrest down the back.
Oh dear. I'm so excited about this now.
Have you got any ideas of things that could happen there?
Well, yeah, I'm thinking obviously at some point we're going to get a much beloved character is going to be laid to rest, and people are going to look at them in the coffin.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be some kind of horrible thing that happens in the mortuary.
I wonder whether there's going to be any kind of. See, what I like about Todd, about what I liked about him during the Phelan story, because this is what it reminds me of. Like when he was he working
He was
working
working
in the
for
lawyer's office, or was he working for Phelan a little
He was
bit?
working
I think.
as like,
I think
wasn't
he
he
was working
working
with
property? Trying to sell property.
maybe. There could be some kind of dodgy dealings, like, you know, some drugs stashed in the coffins or something like that.
Stuffed inside the corpses.
Yeah, I think it
but
is.
that means he won't be there for very long. I'm thinking this is as a long-term thing.
Well, I don't know how long they want to keep George on the show.
Well, they've gone to a lot of money, time and expense of putting this set together.
I mean, I say it feels right to have it on Coronation Street because people are dying all the time, but they're not. There's not, you know, that many deaths on Coronation Street.
Three or four deaths, maybe one major death a year.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's going to be used as frequently as, say, Roy's Rolls is. Unless
there's always going to be. It's going to be a bit like the. I tell you what. This is kind of a stroke of genius that they should have done it last year, because the place for people to hang around as like extras used to be the Rovers and the Bistro and everything, or the hairdressers, where you get funny people coming in and having their hair done. You can't do that at the moment because you can't get the actors that close to people. So there's not really anywhere where the residents of Coronation Street can interact with like quirky newcomers or like people that are only in it for an episode or two. So this is a really great way of having that kind of influx of weirdos.
What, do you think people are just going to be popping in?
They'll come in, you know, they'll come in when they need to. It'd be really funny if there was a serial widow who kept coming in and it was never mentioned.
Yeah, that'd be really funny.
And she's like, oh, hello, Mrs. What's your name this time?
Yeah. I hope they've thought a lot about it and come up with much more creative ideas than I can think of. But it's hopefully going to mean more George as well, because he's been on the show for a fair while now, and I still don't really feel like we've got to know him particularly. It looks like this is going to be the beginning, you know, the second start of George on Coronation Street. It's also clearly going to lead to him and Eileen together. I mean, here's a comedy scene. There's going to be George and Eileen are going to be probably necking in the Chapel of Rest or something at some point,
and then Todd will open the doors and go, "Come through, Mr. Blah." Oh my gosh! Close the doors quickly.
Or are they going to have a secret relationship and they have to hide inside coffins or something, so people don't catch them at it, or somebody will be hiding in a coffin. Will hide
somebody.
Yeah, and Eileen and George. I mean, you know what Toya and Imran are like in their lawyer's office when nobody's there. Eileen and George are going to be at it, and Todd's going to be inside a coffin for some reason and having to listen to his mum and George smooching or worse. I don't know.
There's going to be so many people that can get, like, Tracy can be there.
Yeah. Doing
flower stuff. You're going to get somebody's going to be the cleaner, surely. They can go in there.
Maybe.
At some point they might need somebody to do paperwork. They might need to get lawyer people in for stuff. I don't know. I just think that it's a really interesting idea for a set. And
just putting Todd in there is just
Todd in it
is what it needs. It's it's like the magic little tap of the wands to set it alive.
It's a thing that they needed to get me on board with this idea, because I think I was pretty down on it.
Tell you what, because I'd heard about this a little while ago, and I was trying to think of other storyline titles, but I couldn't think of one. But I was getting close. You know how we had our what's the German story we had last year? Oh, it was Toya Battersby. Well, do you know what Todd means in German?
No.
Dead. So there's probably some kind of storyline potential there.
Have they got some kind of German storyliner or something in there?
Where do we come up with the ideas for our stories? We're just looking through a German dictionary.
Look up what their names mean in different languages.
That's just German, I think. Anyway, so that's all quite exciting. Unlike the Billy and Paul thing, which
romance stories never really work for me. The only thing that's good about this is Todd. You don't know what he's up to.
No, but then
has he got what he wanted now?
I think he has, but. My problem with this, partly, is that it's clearly not over, because I don't think that Coronation Street has any intention of keeping those two together, which is a shame, because if I was going to put anyone together in this, trio of, I can't think of anything. I was just going to see if I can think of anything alliterative for that, but I couldn't. Then I'd want it to be Billy and Todd. I've got absolutely zero desire to see Paul and Billy together. Billy is a massive... No,
so you're happy with how it is?
I'm happy with how it is, but I'm not really happy with how it is, because I know it's not going to stay like this.
Because you're worried that they're
going to... I would eat my hat if they didn't, by the end of the year, have Billy and Paul shacked up together, if not married.
Billy and Paul.
Yep. That's where it's going, because we're supposed to be feeling sorry for Paul, but I'm sorry, I don't. Paul is so much better away from Billy. He's not the most inspiring a character for me anyway, but at least when they had him working with Daniel and Ed the other week, it was something a bit different for him.
And that's Daniel, the character, not Daniel Brocklebank.
Yes, because it's so confusing. Billy just seems like... I've seen the word predatory bandied about online when you think about Billy's behaviour towards Paul, and it kind of does feel like it. It doesn't feel like an equal relationship. I mean, Dan Brocklebank between Billy and Paul. There's a 5-year age gap. Yeah. There's a 5-year age difference between the actors, but a 10-year age difference between the characters. To me, and I think Peter Ash does appear a bit more youthful than his actual age would suggest, because he's 36, I think. And I would put him as a bit younger, whereas Dan Brocklebank, he's only 41, but because with the grey beard and everything, it makes him seem a bit older.
Fact, he's such a square.
It feels like this is, it feels almost like Catholic priest praying on the choir boy kind of territory. And
it's not great, is it? It's not a good look.
No, it really, really doesn't. I just don't think that... I don't know why... I don't get what the appeal is for Paul. And he was confessing his undying love for him at the doorstep on Wednesday's episode. And I was just thinking, why? Go on.
No, but I can see the attraction, because Paul's a vulnerable guy and he's not had a lot of stability in his life.
Yeah,
you can't get much more stable than the blimmin' local vicar, can you?
And to be fair as well, he's got a bit of a messed up past when it comes to, father figures in his life and romance and the combination of the two.
Advantage of.
Yeah. However, I was saying I didn't believe it when Paul was telling Billy that he really loved him, but what I did believe was when I think that actually Dan Brocklebank did a good job in the scene outside number 11 on Monday's episode, when he was telling Todd that he wanted to get back together with him, when he was like desperately saying, "Oh, I want to get back together with you." I kind of believed that. Which is why in my head, if anyone's going to get together, then it should be those two. Interestingly, we haven't talked at all about how Todd's new job could in any way affect...
That's what I was going to say.
Billy.
I was going to say, actually, I forgot to say that, but Billy could be quite a fixture in that space. I don't think that in real life a vicar would spend a lot of time in a funeral parlour, but you could definitely imagine him sort of dropping by going, "Oh, hi George, just making sure that the body's still here."
I wonder whether Todd's going to be getting up to mischief there, and Billy's going to catch on to it because it's to do with a funeral that he's going to be organising at the church.
You really think that Todd's going to wreck this job? Because you're thinking he's going to be like he was when he was working with Pat, but I think he's going to be like he was when he was working with Tracy, where he's just rude to everybody.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't see that he's going to get up to mischief, because that would then put a shelf life on how long he can work there. Because there was always a shelf life with how long he was going to work with Pat, because we knew Pat wasn't going to be in the show forever.
Everything, there's so much on Coronation Street seems to have a short shelf life though, doesn't it? It's like they have an idea for a story and, it plays out. It's like, now what? Let's split them up. Let's get them fired. Let's move them on to their next adventure.
Let's go to Bromsgrove.
Let's have a bit of stability with this one, I think. So we put up a Twitter poll the other day, well, you did.
I love Twitter polls.
We need to do them more often, and if this one's anything to go by, then they certainly get the Twitter sphere engaged. This is by far the most responses we've ever had on a Twitter poll, isn't it? We got 5,574 votes on this, and I would like to say thank you very much to the ITV Corrie Twitter account for liking it, which is what I think I gave it the boost. And Dan Brocklebank retweeted it this morning as well to give it another little boost. But yeah, 5,500 people voted in this. Who do you want? Which combination? Yeah, which combination of characters do you want together?
And this went up during Thursday's episode and finished during Friday's.
And it's funny because I'd been moaning before the results started coming in and saying, oh, obviously Coronation Street wants us to want Billy and Paul together, but clearly they're not suited together. Well, Twitter says otherwise, because 73% of the respondents in this poll voted for Billy and Paul to get to be together. So they're obviously fuming at the moment at the fact that Billy and Todd are together. But don't worry, everybody, that's not going to last. I've got no
You're going to put money down.
I put money down that this is not going to last.
You're going to put money down that Billy and Paul will be married by the end of 2021.
Or planning it, you know, it wouldn't surprise me.
Plan a wedding at a funeral parlour.
Together, yes, maybe not married. I don't know. Billy and Todd together, which is, if I suppose that's
which is
who
what's
I was.
Happened
that's
now.
what's happened now, and who I would prefer to be together is only 6%. So everyone is like saying, "I hate Todd." We got loads of response to this as well, didn't we? And people really, really don't like Todd.
Look,
and it's funny, but
let me just say, Billy and Paul got 73%. Billy and Todd got 6%, and then I put Todd and Paul in there just for a laugh, 2%.
I mean, that's still a fair amount.
None of the above,
100 people,
19%.
Yeah, a fifth of the people who responded don't want any of them to get together, and I suppose maybe that's what I would vote for. But yeah, 73% Billy and Paul, and they all seem to hate Todd, and
a lot of people don't like Billy either. I think Paul's the one who's got out of.
Everybody seems to love Paul, and lots of people are saying Paul deserves better, and that's the other option, isn't it? That when Todd inevitably screws up and Paul sees his true colours, because it's been suggested by Gemma, I think that maybe Todd is being manipulative here, so it's going to come out. The question is then, is Paul going to go boomeranging back to Billy again, or is he going to go, actually, no, screw you, I told you I wanted to be with you, you chose Todd over me, I'm going out with James now, let's say. I don't know.
Well, we've got so many eligible bachelors on the street now, don't we?
Oh, yeah. Well,
now we've got Paul, Sean and James with nobody to go out with. We got Jimmy, who could come back.
Don't forget,
and we've got,
what's Todd's boss called at the call centre? What happened to him? Jay, was it?
Yeah, RJ.
RJ, that's right. Yeah.
That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah, so everybody's saying that Paul deserves better, and I'm thinking, does he though?
Paul's just a dumb idiot, isn't he? I just don't.
I think he
just kind of like fumes at everything.
Yeah, he is. He's just confused and angry.
Yeah, he does. He's like a caveman who's been like catapulted into modern day, and he can't work a tablet.
Yeah,
like my day, tablets were made of stone.
Yes, but I'd like to see him happy, but I wouldn't say he deserves.
No, he doesn't. I mean,
happiness.
He's had a crap life, but so's everyone on Coronation Street.
Whereas, I mean, does Todd deserve happiness?
Not really. He's a bastard. But at least a lovable bastard.
Very, very glad how I've been convinced by the new Todd. I'll say again, like if you were to tell me a year ago, and.
Good job, everybody.
I'd prefer things if things had gone the other way, blah, blah, blah. But Gareth Pearce has done such a fantastic job of making me like him and making me believe he's Todd. I'm not watching him going, that's not Todd, that's not Ted, where I still am with Summer. And I think this is probably the most, in the past week, this is the most we've probably seen of Summer. I think I'm past the stage where she comes on and I go, who's that?
The dungarees are not fooling anybody, costume department.
I know,
I'm usually
what do young people wear?
Like, the costume department is usually brilliant and totally on point and do a fantastic job with all their characters. And when they do a good job, unfortunately, it becomes invisible because it just looks like, oh yeah, of course they're wearing that, that's what they would wear. But with Summer, it just looks so try-hard and wrong. Like, do children wear things like that? Do teenagers wear dungarees? She looks like somebody just opened, like, Just 17 from 1996 and went, yep, dungarees, stripy turtleneck, some kind of weird chain thing on her belt with big hoops on it. Perfect.
I'm surprised they don't just give her, like a lollipop or a hat with a propeller on the top or something, She's young, everybody. She's not in her early 20s. What? Who said that? Yeah, exactly. Oh, God, it's just so not working.
It's really bad.
And I don't hate her, so that's something, but I'm still not loving her, and I'm still thinking, and I'm still thinking, she's not like Summer used to be.
Yeah, sorry.
Whereas with Todd, I think he's doing it. He's not exactly the same as Bruno's Todd, but he's as near as damn it.
Let's be fair. When it took me a long time to warm to Gareth Pearce as Todd, so I think we still got to wait.
But Summer didn't come in that long after him.
All right,
it was weeks or maybe a month or so. I think.
Just is not working.
No. I mean, I don't know whether she's going to come in boiled up in the teen storyline a little bit.
A lot of it's to do with the wardrobe.
It's just
because it's obnoxiously obvious that they're trying to go
I
child.
just think that the casting department screwed up, and I'm not saying that she's a bad actress or anything.
No, I think she's fine.
She's fine. We've not seen her
She hasn't
have
been
to
given
do
anything
much.
to do. No.
No.
We don't normally aren't normally so negative about people, but she's doing as good a job as she can do. But I don't think that they're helping her at all in any way.
No, not at all. Anything else for this story? I think we've had quite a nice impassioned discussion about
Considering how
this.
much we said we hated this story and thought it was boring, I think we've got quite into it. This is the trouble. Something about Thursday's episode just was very unengaging and boring, because when I read back what actually happened, I was much more engaged in it than I was watching it.
I wonder what it was. Is it a script thing? Is it a performance thing? I don't know. But yeah, Thursday's episode was dire.
Yeah.
So bad. And it wasn't just this story that was to blame. There were other things that happened on Thursday that we had us rolling our eyes. Maybe we'll get onto those in a little bit. Nina's cafe in the middle of the street.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. That added to the overall atmosphere of...
We'll get there.
Being really objectively stupid.
Anyway, fresh start for Todd and Billy now. Let's have... It's just because it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time until Paul comes and saves the day.
He's got himself a new job. He's got himself a new man. Now he just needs a new place to live. I'm sure he's going to move in with Billy any minute soon.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, Eileen's going to shot herself in the foot then, hasn't she? Don't go to Bram's grave, I will miss you.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Right, who's the granddaddy? Still don't know, but there's potentially a DNA test on its way that could solve this for us. So let's find out what happened with the Baileys this week. Monday was them in the centre stage, really. So Ed, at the beginning of Monday's episode, is not too happy to see Michael talking to Ronnie about Grace. In the middle of the street. Apparently they're going to do some blood tests to find out any more about this anemia that Glory's got, because obviously was it last week we learned, or a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember, must have been last week, that Glory is anemic and Ronnie is a carrier for sickle cell anemia, is this right? Yes. And they want to find out, is that proof that they're related or something? Yeah. Ronnie says he's going to go over and see Glory in the hospital later. I can't. This baby's name is not sticking with me. I'm either. Sometimes I'm thinking the baby's called Grace, and when I'm writing my notes, I'm writing Gloria a heck of a lot. Glory, not Gloria. Right. Ed calls Aggie. We got more video calls, and I'm actually quite enjoying them. And I know that's really rubbing some people up the wrong way, isn't it? These video calls and Lorna not being there on.
The problem is.
It feels different and very believable and very
this
now.
Is life now.
And it's. I mean, we're all thinking why they're having to do this, and I'm sure it's not what they would originally want. But yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's feeling not fine to me. Anyway, he calls Aggie. Ed does, and says, "Oh, Ronnie's visiting Grace and Glory today." And Aggie says, "Look, we can't have Ronnie spending any more time with this kid. He thinks he's the granddad. He's just going to get those. He's going to." Stick with those ideas. If the more time he spends with her, get rid of him. And Ed is kind of given up. He thinks this is all hopeless. They've got this secret about the Ronnie and Aggie relationship 30 years ago. It's going to come out. What are we going to do? So Ronnie goes over to the hospital and he says to a nurse there that he's Glory's granddad. Because he wants to know about this sickle cell thing.
She kind of assumes, and he doesn't.
Yeah, that's right. She says, "Are you the granddad?" And he's like, "Yes, yes, I am." By the way, I've got sickle cell disease or whatever. Could I pass this on to her? They can't really say, but she's glad to get that little nugget of information. And she comes back and speaks to Michael later because she can't tell Ronnie. But later she tells Michael that it is not sickle cell anemia that Grace... See, there we go. I'll say it again. Glory has got. And she says, "Oh, yeah, your dad was worried about this. And speak of the devil, here he comes, your father, Ronnie." And Michael's like, "Hang on a minute, what's going on? He's not my dad." And Ronnie's like, "Oh, you just assume we were related." And the nurse is like, you said you were his dad.
Kind of like...
I don't think she...
She kind of, like, ducks out, like, something... going
Yeah, she does. Michael's just left confused by this. Why did Ronnie tell the hospital that he was a carrier anyway? Because even if what Ronnie's saying is true, Michael thinks, and the nurse did get the wrong end of the stick, what's the point of Ronnie saying that I'm a carrier? Because if he's just the uncle, then it wouldn't make any difference. And Ronnie kind of realises that he's been trapped a little bit, and he kind of wants to tell the truth.
Oops.
So he does.
I'm your dad.
I think I might be your dad, Michael. Michael's mad. They go outside. Ed rocks up. He's fuming that this truth has come out. He says, "No, Michael, I'm your dad, whatever Ronnie says." And Michael's mad about this, and he sends them both on their way. He just shuts out everybody,
He's got a lot
basically,
on his
doesn't he?
plate
He's had
at the
this
moment.
massive bombshell dropped on him that Ed might not be his
Well, he's
real
also got a
biological
daughter,
dad. He's got a daughter
in
that's
ICU.
Yeah.
And his mum's he can't see his mum because she's with Auntie Corona.
Yeah, and his brother's no use nor ornament, is he? So it's like he's on his own a little bit.
As soon as James found out it was a girl, he's like, girls' football's boring.
Girls can't play football.
Bye.
Anyway, Ed and Michael later have a heart-to-heart in the hospital waiting room, and Ed swears, "I'm your dad's son," and Michael says, "Goodbye, Edison," and storms off.
Harsh.
I know.
What a rude thing to say to one's father.
I hear from David that if you call your parent by their actual name, that it
Shows disrespect.
Exactly. I'm going to give it a try. Michael tells Grace what's happened at the end of the episode, and she says, "Look, you need to have a proper talk about this to your family." He says, "As far as I'm concerned, you and Gloria are the only are the only family that I've got now."
That's so rude. Look, that's so rude. Edison only just found this out,
Yes.
so it's not his fault. Dee Dee is blameless, and James is too stupid to be blamed for anything.
Yeah, why is he so mad at Ed? Just because he kept it from him for a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's apparent that Michael knows how long Ed's known for.
Yeah.
And Ed should really defend himself here, because what was he supposed to do?
Good point. Thursday, should I say. Ed is trying to apologise to Michael, but he doesn't want to hear it. So Ronnie goes to visit
give him a
Ed
slap.
at the yard later and says, "Look, I was the one that brought Michael up. I'm his dad, no matter what anybody says." Michael is listening into this. Yeah, again, we have more listening in. We had Todd skulking about in the Ginnel earlier this week. Now we've got Michael round the corner.
Listening to
Ed
Ronnie.
saying, "Oh, I love Michael. He's so important for me. I've raised him. I've done all this for." And Michael kind of realises, I think, a little bit that Ed, has been a fairly good dad over the years. He might not have finished the stairs back at home, but apart from that, he's been a solid dad.
Put more effort in.
He says that he wants a private word with Ed. Michael does. He comes strolling in and says, "Look, I know you're my dad no matter what, but I think we should do a paternity test just in case."
Oh, and Ed, this was I felt really annoyed by this. I felt Ed was such a manipulator here.
Did you? Why?
Manipulator. Because he was like, "Oh, no matter what happens, I'm your dad. Oh, you don't need a test to know I'm your dad. I looked after you." It's like, yeah, but they want to know though, don't you?
Yeah, Michael.
Because if you don't know, you can't. Like, it's also not his decision. And if he was like, is he worried that he really isn't the dad?
I think he must be.
Yeah.
If he because he doesn't know. He does. He.
Well, yeah. He
there's
can't
no way.
know,
There's
can
no way he can know. But he doesn't want to risk finding out, does he?
No, I understand that, but it's not his decision to make, and it certainly isn't his prerogative to guilt trip Michael. And it's kind of come up a little bit here with the sickle cell thing, but as we learn more about genetics, it is going to become slightly more important to know who your parents actually are, because we're learning more and more about different types of genetic disorders and how they're passed down. And if you don't know that you're related to somebody, you're not going to know that you need to get tested for things.
Yeah, I mean, we've brushed on this whole thing about genetics and Coronation Street in the last few years, with Jim having his what did he have?
Don't remember, but
he had his congenitive condition, didn't he? And then
Steve thought he
then had it, and then was it brought out of whether Emma could have it? I can't remember. It was certainly, he was worried whether Amy could have it, but yeah. But anyway,
this is just going to become more and more an important thing, and I mean, they brought it up a little bit with Ollie about, where did Ollie get this from? But they never really went anywhere with it.
Yeah, you're right.
But I really want them to do a proper story about genetic disorders and stuff.
Only a matter of time, I'm sure. Anyway, Michael says, "Look, you're right. I'm not going to get this test done after all." Back at home, James gives...
Well, because what is he supposed to do? Well, his dad's there basically saying, don't test me. Don't test me to see if I'm really your dad. I am really your dad, I promise. I've done everything a dad could ever do.
No, he could have said,
he could have. Oh,
At
well,
the end of the day,
Michael's a big softie though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Michael's very non-confrontational.
I think as Michael's father, Ed should just step back and do whatever Michael decides.
Look, yeah, because
he needs to support his son's decision.
If he's come up to him and said, look, it's in my mind enough that I want to test, to try to talk him out of it, it's just going to make him feel bad about whatever he ends up deciding.
Yeah. James offers some sage counsel to Michael back at home. Don't worry about it, as it'll be forgotten about in a month, which is probably true.
Yeah, in this
because
the scheme of
we've been
this
in quite a long
programme.
filming block at the moment. Well, you have anyway, says James. I've barely got my face on screen as usual, but yeah, people probably will have forgotten about it in a month. But James is like, Michael's like,
I'm not going to forget who my dad is.
So he goes over to the Rovers to see Ronnie. Remember, he's living there now, and tells him that he's getting the test done. Ronnie's glad to hear this, but Michael has a massive go at him because of how humiliating the whole situation is. Anyway, he's sure that it's going to come back negative. You're not my dad. But what if it doesn't, says Ronnie. Michael is, meanwhile, getting more and more irate about this. Whatever the result of the test is, he says, I'm not having anything to do with you after this, Ronnie, because you're a selfish, vain man. And then he bogs off.
That is a very rude thing to say to somebody just because they like to wear hats.
He's so swish. He's so stylish, dapper, isn't he? Yeah, Ronnie. And we didn't really get much more of this on Friday. Aggie's trying to phone Michael, but he puts the phone down on her. Ed's still under the impression that Michael's not going to get this test done. And then when Michael goes along to the hospital later and finds Grace acting suspiciously chirpy,
she's not chirpy, she's just like, oh, I'm just got this iPad because I was looking at things.
Well, it transpires that she's been on video call with Aggie, who's been having a look at old Glory, and Michael's not too happy about this because he doesn't want anything to do with Aggie. I can understand why he's mad at her more than Ed, because, I mean, to be fair, Aggie hasn't actually... Well, she just kept it from him, didn't she?
Well, she said her story is we weren't even going out with each other.
Yeah.
Me and your dad weren't dating. I went out with Ronnie first, and the baby is Edison's, and I've never thought anything different. And why he has a different story from hers, I don't know. And what the truth of the matter is, I don't know. I'm going to assume that considering how much effort Ronnie's got into to get himself into this situation, he must have a very good reason for thinking that is his kid.
I'd have thought that maybe, being a nurse, Aggie might have had a sneaky little DNA test of her own at some point over the past 30 years. I know you couldn't have done it 30 years ago when Michael was born, because I don't think did we have such technology back then?
Some people are okay with not knowing things, and I can't relate to that at all.
Aggie must have wanted to know. She must have wondered. It must have crossed her mind.
According to Aggie, that she never thought that was possible. And
is
for all you know, is she so sure? For all you know, she knows for a very good reason that women might know.
Tell you what, maybe it's somebody else. Maybe she was having an affair with somebody whilst going out with one or the other of them, yeah.
I remember that night.
Steve McDonald's not guilty. Anyway, Aggie is also warming to Grace because of this, it turns out. Because she ends up having a chat with Michael later,
Grace has done a very good job here by going behind Michael's back to get some brownie points off the old mother-in-law.
Yeah.
I don't see why Michael thinks that Aggie shouldn't be able to talk to Glory. She's definitely the grandma.
Definitely.
We know that.
Yeah. So that was that.
It's not like she's gonna like convince she's gonna like corrupt baby Glory into having an affair. You know what I mean?
So were you
because this is I think this is really mean of Michael. I understand he's upset, but Glory's in the hospital and they are, there's nothing, they haven't said anything like life-threatening is occurring, but she's still very sick.
So wee.
And this could be Aggie's only chance to see her granddaughter. You don't know what's going to happen. I don't think she's going to die.
I don't think no.
But in real life, to stop your mother from seeing the baby, especially if you don't have to have anything to do with it, I'd say, look, I don't want to talk to you. I don't have anything to do with you. I'm really cross with you, and I don't want to discuss this. But if somebody else wants to show you the baby on a picture or a video, what's the harm?
I hope that we get to see Aggie back on the show soon. As much
Yeah.
as I'm enjoying the novelty of her being on video chat, I'm missing her actual physical presence.
Do you
there.
think
I don't know how long Auntie Corona's long COVID is going to be, but
Do you think that Lorna's just like got some kind of really what's the word, cushy like work from home deal with Coronation? Like she's
Maybe.
like, yeah, I don't want to commute anymore. I'm going to live in France and just film it here.
It's interesting that they've done this with her, but they haven't gone down the route with any of the other characters. We did see.
I think it'd be too much if everybody was on.
We had Eileen doing a
she was in
FaceTime from Thailand in inverted commas last year, didn't we? Just for one there. But yeah, there are definitely other characters that
I could have done
aren't
that,
showing their
but I think it
faces.
would have been too much.
I've kind of felt bad for Michael this week.
Michael ends the week being cross,
Yeah.
basically about
He's got
being
every
betrayed
reason.
by Grace. Aggie's getting to see Glory without his permission, not knowing about this DNA test, being mad at Ronnie for ruining his life.
What do you think about the whole, or like Ed saying, you know, no matter what, I'm your father, I've raised you and everything? Because I would still be like, oh, but it's not the same. And I know
can't
that,
say that.
and I know that. Well, no, that's just that's what I would think if I was in Michael's position, and I know that it's all about, you know, who raised you.
This is what annoys me.
But if it would make you think differently about this person, wouldn't it?
What,
It would
about
me.
Ed?
It would make me feel different about Ed.
Yeah, this is the thing that annoys me. It's like, like as a society, we're always like, oh, you know, family's what you make, blah blah. Talking about adoption and fostering, and you really can make a family out of anybody who cares about you. That's true. But then also there's this other element of like, you know, all these fantasy programs and TV shows about, oh, who's your real father, or like, oh, you know, Jon Snow is really so and so, and like, oh, the bond of
bloodline
blood and all,
strong,
like going on about like blood relations.
I think for
and
some
there's-
people maybe it doesn't matter, but it personally, I would be. I couldn't not get the test. It would eat away at me.
I'd have to get the test.
I'd just have to, and
But,
hope
yeah,
for
I
the
think-
best.
I don't know. I think you wouldn't think anything differently about Ed. Would you? Or would you just think differently about Ronnie?
I think
Because
I
the thing
would.
is-
I
the
think
thing
I would
is-
feel different about Ed.
But you're-
If my dad, my actual real life dad, I found out that he wasn't my actual real life dad,
He'd want a refund for his bathroom.
I don't know. I think it would make me feel a bit different. It'd make me feel
You're
there'd be
being-
a little voice in
You're
my
being
head.
very honest.
I know I am. I think there'd be a little voice in my head, and I can be honest because I'm pretty certain that my dad is actually my
Well,
dad.
you'll never find out if he's not. There's nobody who's going to tell you.
A little voice in my head would be saying, "He's not your dad. He's not your dad."
Oh,
No matter what
it's horrible.
anybody was telling me about, he brought you up, he did this, that, and the other.
I suppose.
Oh,
it's
I really
it's
hope that Ed
different.
is Michael's dad. But then if he is, then where does the storyline go there? Because I don't know what the future has in store for Ronnie. Is he going to just find out, oh, actually, he's not the dad, right, I'm going back down to London then? I don't know. Do you think that... Because he is doing the test, isn't he?
Yeah, there's no way he's not.
What do you think that Ronnie or Ed is going to be Michael's dad?
I think it's going to be Ronnie because I don't think they would have brought it up if it wasn't. So Ronnie seems like a sort of a pretty well cast, big namey sort of guy who's going to be around for a while.
That's devastating to Michael,
It is.
and I love Michael.
I know. I don't want Michael to feel bad, and I don't want Alison to feel bad either. And he's right; he is his dad. And I think the thing is, you can if you've been raised to know that the person who is raising you as your father is not your father. That's a different thing to growing your whole life thinking that he's your biological dad and your family dad.
Well, it's like
If you
a
find
whole
out-
life's a lie situation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is not true, but that's what it's going to feel like.
So people who have more than one father because one of them's biological and one of them actually raised them, it's not the same thing for them.
No.
And like, I don't want anyone to listen to this and think, oh, you know, they're just saying that the only real dad is like the sperm donor. That's not true. But you're saying like the shock would...
Yeah.
Because
But
it totally changes your perspective.
and the Baileys are quite a strong, I guess, family
They feel
unit.
very traditional.
They do, and to have and it's
And
like,
very-
we can't have a traditional family in
No.
my soap, thank you very much. Let's have another surprise linked to another relation, which there's been too many of in Coronation Street originally anyway.
That they're fairly religious as well, or they have religious.
They have indicated that in the past,
but they haven't demonstrated it.
No, it'd be very, very sad if Ronnie turns out to be the dad.
It would.
But maybe it's the kick in the teeth that Michael needs to actually integrate with other people, other characters. If he's going to say, "I'm not having anything to do with you like anymore," maybe he'll get involved with some other characters, because still the Baileys feel like their own sideshow, don't they? They literally have nothing to do with any other characters. Anything else to add for this one?
No.
I think we're done. It felt like it went off the board a little bit after Monday. I
just wanted to get the bloody test done.
Yeah, how long do these things take? I think they take as long as the soap wants them to take.
Well, didn't he get? Weeks? He should have got a loyalty card for the paternity test when he got Grace to do it on Glory.
Oh, how many stamps?
Yeah.
What happens when you get 5 stamps on your paternity test card?
Get a free baby of your choice.
Right, Gemma. Seb and Nina are budding away this week, aren't they?
Well, on Monday, Ash is still upset about the whole Nina breakup thing. And Dev says you should talk to her about it. So she goes to see her, and they're like happy to see each other. And Nina's like, "Oh, we should meet up again. We'll be friends." Corey's loitering, and he's like, "Oh, Asha, you can go out with me if you like." And she's like, "Oh, Corey, it's you again."
Every time Corey comes back, I'm like, I thought you'd gone.
Go away, Corey. We don't like you. You're an annoying man.
He's just got such a punchable face, Corey, really hasn't he? Yeah. The actor who's playing him is doing a good job of just being like...
really annoying.
Such a scrote.
Yeah. So Asha comes to see Nina. Nothing really happens, except she's trying to cheat at Scrabble. Is that symbolic of something? No. On Thursday, Corey and Ash are deciding what they want to do today. Neither of them they're kind of acting cool about it. He says, he's got a phone message. He dashes off. What's going on there? Is he cheating on her?
Yeah,
is he a drug dealer?
That never came into anything, did it? I don't think.
Is he working for Will Mellor? Nina can see Asha is looking a bit unhappy. And Roy says, "Oh, you're jealous." And she says, "No. I'm just worried about her because Corey's a wrong'un." And Roy says, "You should keep out of it because it's none of your business anymore." Seb comes into the cafe, and then we get this weird, flirting thing. Seb and Nina have never shown any interest in each other whatsoever, but they somehow bond over.
Well, you know what that means. 2 characters who've never had any interest in each other are suddenly talking and having a bit of a flirt. They're going to be the next couple. Can I just... I need to get this out of my system now. It was so painstakingly obviously telegraphed. I'm glad that by, the end of this week, it does appear that they're a couple. But they always have to have, whenever there's going to be a couple, they always have to have them fighting, don't they? They always have to be rubbing each other up the wrong way. They always have to have some kind of disagreement. And then they're like, and then it turns out
that we weren't mad at each other. We just had some sexual tension.
It was so bloody cliche. This was Thursday's episode again. I just hated it. And then they had to have the fake thing about Seb liking his cradle of filth because Nina likes it. And it was exactly the same as Alina revealing that she was actually really into dogs and cars. And that's why Tyrone fell head over heels in love with her. And now it turns out they've just used the same thing. What possible spark could we invent that makes these two realise they've got some bond? What does Nina like? Cradle of filth. Oh, maybe Seb does too. Perfect. It was just with textbook bland cliched nonsense. This. Anyway, sorry. Back to you.
You're done.
Yeah.
Seb comes into the cafe. They have a bit of banter over the cheese balm. She's moaning about the pollution that the building work that they're doing is causing. And he doesn't really care because he's part of the problem. Then he gets stuck in traffic on Rosamond Street and nobody's going anywhere. For some reason, the solution, it seems to be, to just beep your horn. David says, "Oh, there's a new cafe opening around the corner," which makes no sense.
Yeah, when he said that to Seth, we were like, "Oh, where's this come from? Is there a new cafe?"
No, David can't tell the difference between a new cafe and somebody putting a table in the middle of the road. which says something about his taste in cafes, I suppose.
It was also Shona was there merrily serving in the street.
Yeah, she think his
his
girlfriend slash wife, what is she, wife, has got a job working at a completely different cafe. That somehow in the premises of the cafe that she used to work at, is it not more logical that actually it's the same cafe that's been there the entire time and she's just got the same job that she's always had?
It was a stupid thing. Well, Nina's protest was setting up 2 or 3 tables on the middle of the cobbles down Victoria Street. I would have thought that David would see, what's she doing? This is just stupid. Shona,
we'll say, look,
stop doing
Shona,
this, my dear.
Nina, you're getting Shona to do something. She's got brain damage. You're taking advantage of her because she's crazy. So yeah, like you said, Nina and Shona have put 2 tables in the middle of the road and are causing a traffic jam.
And also a lot more pollution than maybe Seb and Ed were doing with their building.
Yes. Seb's trying to get rid of her, and then Roy comes along and says her protest is ill-conceived and foolhardy, which it is, yeah. I don't understand why she thought this was a good idea. I also don't understand why people are sitting in their cars going beep, 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 beep. Also don't understand why people are sitting in the middle of the road at a table, looking presumably right into the eyes of everybody who is sitting in the traffic jam.
That was the worst
beeping.
bit. People just sitting there eating their bacon bombs and drinking their cup of tea and going, what, this is a cafe? What are you trying to get through here?
This is a new cafe that's just opened in the middle of the road.
Such
and
a
also,
stupid
Craig
idea.
is usually in up everyone's arse all the time about whatever stupid crimes that they're supposedly committing. But putting a table and chairs in the middle of a highway is apparently completely fine.
Yeah.
Is it one of these things where, like, oh, I'm sorry, it's a civil matter? You know, when something actually happens and you ask the police for help and they're like, sorry, there's some kind of weird law that means we can't be involved in this because it's not a crime when it takes place in private property.
It was one of those things where I think a writer or a storyliner or something was like, wouldn't it be funny if... blah, 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 blah.
And everyone
Nina
went,
sets up a cafe in the
whatever.
middle of the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on then. Why not? Just for a scene. That'd be quite funny.
And then they went, oh no, actually that wouldn't
It came
work
from
because... And then everyone went, shut up.
It came from the same school of thought of, wouldn't it be funny if they got Norris to dress up as Batman and protest Grandfathers for Justice, which was just as ridiculous. I
And
thought
wouldn't it
it
be
was
funny
very
if
silly.
Izzy ran over someone's foot, a policeman's foot?
That was great.
Yeah, it was great. So anyway, they just basically break the protest up by calling it foolhardy, and that's enough for Nina. She just feels very bad about it.
She feels very foolish.
Yeah. All over later, Nina and Seb's bants continue, and she's attracted to his waterfall of gravy hair, probably.
But he says he's going to get it locked off later, but he changes his mind. This was the best bit of all this. What was it? Shona. Was it Shona or was it Nina trying to guess what the nicknames were that Seb was called at his work because of his hair? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
I wrote these down. You
out.
were doing our bills again there later. It was Shona. I've got it in notes here. She was trying to guess what do people call you? My Little Pony, Jesus, Rapunzel. It was in the end, and Jesus was a funny one because I wonder whether that was a reference. Did you remember? Like, was it a year or two ago? And he had his hair down for the first time. And he had his scruffy beard, and people were saying he looked like Jesus online.
I thought you were going to say as a reference to the fact it's Easter.
Yeah, he's lucky he didn't get nailed up, didn't he?
Don't say that. People get upset with things like that. So he's not getting his hair cut, and they bond over the lyrics to a Cradle of Filth song with... is it the only one that's got lyrics that you can say?
Patron saint of heartache. That was...
Usually they're a bit more sweary, those songs.
I don't know any Cradle of Filth songs.
I remember my my cousin who went crazy, used to be a fan of Cradle of Filth.
That doesn't surprise me.
And everybody was up in arms about it. And because of that, I wasn't allowed to paint my nails black. So I have
Do you remember when my sister had a boyfriend who had his nails painted black?
Sam.
Was it? You even remember his name?
I do remember his name. It was
We
brilliant.
were around at my mum and dad's house. Was it like
Yep.
Christmas or something? I can't remember.
No,
And my
it-
sister was there
yeah.
with her boyfriend Sam. We were all
It was
just
a massive goth. And you're like very, very middle class village dwelling parents were like, oh, hello, Sam. And I was like, this is brilliant. I'm the best one. I'm the best other half that any of these children have brought back. I don't even have any nail varnish on at all.
Anyway, if you want to listen to Cradle of Filth, of course, that's completely up to you. I just thought it was silly how...
Well, you said it
they
was
made
silly
it
the way that they said it.
I
Like
thought it was silly that they've decided to
also,
make Seb
isn't
into
Cradle
it.
of Filth like a really old school?
I don't know.
Is it? I mean,
I did. I had a problem, with the delivery of the line, because Nina brings up, "Oh, I'm just a patron saint of heartache," and then Seb goes, "Oh, patron saint of heart." I can't speak. Patron saint of heartache. Is that a lyric? Oh, it's cradle of filth. And then he says the line, doesn't he? Bloody, 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 blah. The patron saint of heartache. And then Nina kind of then parrots back and says the next line, and the way she delivers it is like she was trying to remember the line. She's like, bloody, 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 blah, the patron saint of heartache. But she was the one that brought it up, so why is she having trouble remembering this line? It was silly. Whole thing was silly. But at least it was...
apparently they're still around. I didn't know this.
It was fairly short to get them back together again, which is...
Still...
yeah, fine. Maybe they're not a bad couple together.
They're still working on an album.
Right, stop looking up.
I did not know that. I thought that they were like 90s and then they never did anything.
Well, there you go.
When I heard of them.
There you go. Friday, Gemma.
So,
no, sorry. We didn't say that he didn't get his haircut at the end.
No, he didn't, because it's beautiful.
Oh, no, maybe we said that already. What happened today?
Friday, Corey's been accepted into the County Youth Academy, and they're like,
Football.
Oh, you're going to be like Tommy O. And he's like, haha, that's the only one you know. And James is there going, oh, football.
What about me, James? It's all I know.
They're in the cafe. Nina's glaring at them, and Corey's like, let's go tell Dev that we're back together. Seb comes into the cafe, and they start flirting again. Are they going to talk about how much they love corn now? Not the food. Later, Asha tells Nina that she and Seb seems pretty close. Nina's
corn
like...
or corn, because I hear that Nina loves that.
She probably likes all three.
Corn, and...
Corn. Yes, Nina says, yeah, I actually quite like Seb. So she sees him later, and she says, oh, let's watch a film together. Corey, meanwhile...
I want to know what film she's going to show him, because I thought she only liked, French lesbian romps.
No, I think that's what she has foisted upon her by other people. I think she's down... She probably, watches...
Oh, that's true. That was Dev's choice, wasn't it?
She probably either watches stuff like, oh, this is really good, a Romanian vampire movie in the original language, and I've got the subtitles written on a bit of paper.
I think that she's a massive Tim Burton nut.
Or I want to watch Babe again, because that pig is adorable.
No.
She's, do you think? She's either the sort of person who watches horror movies, really obscure ones, or she ironically watches Disney films.
Maybe. I'm going to say, Corpse Bride, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, I hate
Edward
those films.
Scissorhands.
They scare the crap out of me.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
So, Corey buys Asha some gerberas from... Tracy's.
One of Gemma's favourite flowers.
You keep saying that, but I don't like them anymore.
One of Gemma's not favourite flowers.
Dev,
I think they're nice. So bold.
There's a time in your life when you like a gerbera, and there's a time in your life when you prefer perhaps a peony.
Oh yeah, you are a peony person at the moment. You like tulips.
I love tulips.
Good.
Yeah.
And daffodils. Gemma likes daffodils.
You're just gonna live. And also, what's the other one I like?
Myself.
That I grow in the garden. Dahlias.
Oh yeah.
Dev is intrigued.
Are they the same as peonies?
No, I'll show you pictures later. Dev is intrigued when he hears Seb and Nina talking about their movie night, because he's like, what's going on? What? And then he walks in on Asha and Corey together, and Corey's trying to get Asha to go upstairs with him. And Corey's like, tries to stand his ground and stand up to Dev, who's furious. He's hit the roof because this is the guy that's cost him a load of money trying to wipe off all the pornography of his daughter off the internet, and suddenly there he is back in the house again.
Well, and 3-4 months ago he was trying to get Asha to drop her drawers before her 16th birthday, wasn't it? And he thought he'd got this guy out of her life.
And now he's bloody back again, buying her bloody gerberas, which was Sunita's favourite flower. Talk about rubbing it in. It's like there hasn't been a gerbera in this house since Sunita died. So anyway, he's like, get out. You're not staying here. And Corey eventually does leave. And Ash is like, oh, we're just friends. Corey's changed. And he says, did you know that Nina and Seb are together? And she's like, I don't care anyway. So then Dev sees Nina again, and he's like really mad at her. And he kind of like blames her for the fact that Corey and Asha are back together again. And he's like, oh, you've moved on fast. And it's like, well, so did Asha. And it's Asha's idea in the first place. And she's kind of insinuating that Nina is responsible for talking Asher out of dating Corey. And she's like, it's none of my business. So he goes back home and he's in a good mood with Asher because Corey's not there. And he says, you're right to be concentrating on your studies rather than pining after Nina and Corey. And I just told Nina off. And she gets mad and says, you shouldn't have said anything.
Stop interfering in my love life. Thank you very much, Father.
Also, me and Corey are back together. And he says, well, he's never coming here again. And she says, well, I don't care. I will just go to his house.
Asher, what you like?
Turns out his front room looks suspiciously like a funeral parlour, but with different furniture.
I think that she's going to regret that. I'm kind of... As silly as as badly clunky as Seb and Nina getting together was, I think the pieces are all kind of being arranged in a quite interesting manner now, because the recently dumped Asher going back to the bad boy, and I don't know, it just feels like don't you get the feeling that they're setting everything up to kind of explode or something at some point?
I guess that they planned these things, yes.
It almost feels like a storyline has thought about this. I'm kind of intrigued by this.
Yeah, this isn't like, obviously, so I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who's going to end up with who. I just hope that it ends up with Corey dead. If this was the beginning of a teen film, he would be dead, and they would all have to bury him. Yeah. And then a year later, all the secrets would become uncovered.
As much as I kind of groan and roll my eyes whenever Corey shows up again after I thought that we'd seen the last of him, he does, cause a
stir.
He does. He stirs things right up, and
he's a very good antagonist for this storyline.
Yeah.
He's so annoying and arrogant.
He is. He's smarmy and arrogant because he's rich.
Yeah. Bastards.
So good stuff.
So the worst part of this story really was the Thursday idiocy where they had people sitting in a car just beeping their horn.
Those
for no reason.
Obnoxious car horns going on through like 6 or 7 scenes.
Yeah,
on
throughout
Thursday.
The background of lots of scenes was just honk, 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 honk. Like, can you shut up? What are you achieving? I've never understood what the point of beeping in a traffic jam is. We all know we're all in the traffic jam. Nobody ever caused a traffic jam and went, oh yeah, sorry about that. I can see that I'm inconveniencing you.
If they were that mad,
I could see that I was inconveniencing you, but now I can hear that I am, so that's different.
If they were that mad, why didn't they just get out of their cars and move the tables out of the way?
That's what I would have done. Go, you can't have a cafe in the middle of the street, love. I know that there's a pandemic on. Outdoor hospitality's not even open. What are you doing? I'm going to tell Boris Johnson.
Yeah, that was... I don't get what the point of that was. What
was really dumb.
What do you think of Seb and Nina together? Could be a good couple, or are they just being put together for storyline purposes? It feels like it's relatively temporary.
It's like, what do we do with Seb? I don't know.
Yeah, he's had very little to do for the past few years, but
I can't see
it feels
him
like
and
an
Nina.
Asher and Nina reunion is, likely to happen, and I'm kind of in a way, because I am quite intrigued by the teenage stuff that's going on at the moment. It's kind of nice that Seb's been given something to do, and that could also mean that Abby's going to get involved in it, which is no bad thing. I was quite interested.
I can just imagine Abby's face if he brings Nina in for a nice dinner.
Yeah, she's going to be great. She's going to be cool. I was quite intrigued that Seb didn't seem to bat an eyelid at the fact that Nina was interested in him, because he doesn't really know her very well. He maybe just knows that she's been going out with Asher, and there was no hang on a minute, I thought you were a lesbian or anything, was there?
That's because there are no labels in Coronation Street.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I just would have thought that he might have wondered or cared, or I don't know.
I don't know either. We're obviously of a different generation.
Yeah. He's just desperate for a bit of, how's your father?
Well, yeah. I've heard tell from lesbians that men are not very respectful of boundaries if you are a lesbian. So I don't think any man ever heard, oh, she might be a lesbian, perhaps I won't try my luck.
Do you think that maybe Nina thinks that Seb's a girl because of that hair? And then she's going to get him into the bedroom and go, hang on a minute, what's that between your legs?
I don't know if we can even joke about this. I think that people get really upset about it.
Oh, no, sorry if you're getting upset. I don't think most people get upset.
I know, but the ones that get upset are very loud.
I know, they're vocally upset.
That's
That
it.
was about it. Can I just... have we done our obligatory isn't Dev wonderful for this story? Because he is, just in case you weren't sure.
He was dressed
Love
as a
him.
mime earlier this week.
He was. He had a nice stripy black and white
Very
top.
nice
didn't
Breton,
he?
yeah.
And I did a good Photoshop of him wearing a beret and the little moustache, and only about
Nobody
3 people
liked it.
liked it. That was 5 minutes of effort, that
Travesty.
was, everybody.
It's because of Brexit.
Yeah. What was he talking about outside the shop?
Seasons and series.
Oh, yeah, he was.
TV
That was when he
shows.
was going on about... He was had his little rant about
Oh,
people
because
using
he said-
Americanisms.
yeah,
I thought,
because
as if
Seb
I couldn't like
said-
Dev anymore.
Seb said, "Oh, we're going to watch a movie," and Dev was like, "Oh, a movie, or your Americanisms."
Yeah, and this is where he talked about season and series, and that does irk me a little bit. I'm on Dev's side here. I will refer to things as series, I think. I mean, I definitely do if they're British. That's the difference, isn't it? Because a season is different. In America, seasons is saying it's like 23, 25 episodes long or something, whereas it's 6 episodes makes a series in Britain. But I don't like it when people refer to 6-episode series as seasons. Because that's not what we call it here.
Well, you're very weird also with movies.
Series means the whole thing and a little segment of the whole thing. It's perfectly understandable.
But you
You
used
can tell
to,
by the context which one I mean.
if we go to the cinema, you always say we're going to the pictures.
I do say that, but sometimes it's to wind you up.
Yes, it does work. So would
I
you
would say a
argue
film.
with Dev
The
and
pictures
say,
to see a film. We're going to the
Dev,
cinema to see a
it's
movie.
not a film, it's a moving picture or a talkie.
I don't know. But anyway, Dev, just wonderful.
Love Dev.
Love him.
More
He's
Dev.
fantastic. Right, cutting ties next, which we didn't see anything of on Monday, but Thursday's episode it was back in the fore with Maria has been involved in this now. She joins Tyrone in the cafe to find out what's going on with this whole Alina situation.
Quick refresher, I'm sure you guys remember, but Maria and Tyrone used to date one another a very long time ago, and Tyrone asked her to marry him up the Blackpool Tower, which was one of Michael's most favourite
scenes.
Coronation Street moments of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why she's suddenly interested in this.
He says, look, we're not an item, me and Alina. It was just a kiss. It was a mistake. Maria says, you really just need to get her out of your head, because she can tell, as is patently obvious to us, the viewer this week as well, that he's not been able
it.
to. Yeah, he's not over her in the slightest. Maria goes up to Emma and Alina's flat to give Emma back something or other she'd borrowed. I can't remember what it was.
a jumper
And then
fluffer.
she hears that Alina is starting a pop-up in the salon, and they make some kind of hilarious remark
Pop,
about
pop. Pop, Alina,
up.
pop.
Ha, ha, ha. And she's like, oh, give me a skincare consultation later. And
Because she wants to talk to her.
yeah, that's what it was. I was hoping for something a bit more than this.
She doesn't confront her or anything.
No, she does. She says, look...
No, but not like in a really you better stay away from my friend.
Considering last week, was it we had that scene where Fizz and Alina are in the cafe and Fizz is saying, I'm going to smear you across the cobbles.
Love it.
I was hoping for something
Gonna
a little
make
bit
some
more like that
Romanian
from Maria,
strawberry
but
jam.
it just didn't really get there. She's saying you need to move on, and Alina fires back saying, oh, well, Tyrone doesn't feel the same way about Fizz as Fizz feels about me. And then she, I guess quite rightly, accuses Maria of being a massive hypocrite, because it was only 5 years or so ago that Maria was going all nuts and stalking Tyrone and saying, well,
How does she know?
But she says, oh, what do you think me and Tyrone talk about? I can't do the voice as well as you can, as I just clearly demonstrated. She says that Tyrone has mentioned this, that Maria has been a massive nutjob stalker at some point. So she sends Maria away.
How long have they spent together? This is
Alina did live at number 13, sorry, number...
Oh, that's true.
9 with her for a little while, didn't she? So I think it was during that time. So yeah, Alina definitely ends this scene with the cards and all her hand. Is that the right phrase?
The cards were in her court.
No. Right. Friday. Look, what Thursday's episode was missing was Fizz, and I was glad that we got to see a lot more of her on Friday's episode.
And she brought her hair with her.
Oh, she's got the most amazing hair, hasn't
So
Jenny McAlpine? She threatened to change it today.
She said, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to chop it off.
Yeah.
Chop it all off.
First Sebs, now Fizzers. The wig makers of Weatherfield are going to be rubbing their hands with glee.
Who else has beautiful hair?
Jenny has got very nice
Jenny.
hair. I'm sure there are more.
Toya. Shona.
Oh yeah.
Shona.
Nice hair, yeah.
And Seb, really, and that's it.
That'll do. And Natasha's got quite nice, luscious locks, hasn't she?
Yeah, but we're not even going to get into beards because there are some spiffing ones.
Tyrone on Friday wants to take the kids out with Fizz. He doesn't mean he wants to, take them out with a shotgun. He wants to go out somewhere with... That would solve all his problems, really, wouldn't
Like, do you remember Christmas?
Yeah.
Stick him in a box, I'll shoot him.
Yeah. She is not into it. She's just busy scrubbing up the house.
Well, she's
because
like going,
she also
I'll
can't
just
get
be
Alina out of her
I'll
head.
just be I'll just tidy up and be the domestic servant. Like, that's what you want.
So Chesney comes over to the house later and sees Fizz is still sulking and says, look, you need to take control of the situation. Ask Tyrone out for a dinner. Anywhere, You could go
go anywhere.
You go to the Ivy.
Go Frankie
you
and
go
Benny's.
you go to McDonald's
TGI
maybe.
Fridays,
Oh, speed
KFC.
dial. What a brilliant idea. Let's go to
Oh.
speed dial, says Fizz. So she's gonna do that. And
Nando's.
Tyrone finds Fizz there
Well,
later.
no, he also
looking
says
very
something that
glam.
really annoyed me, which was like, oh, you need to forgive Tyrone because he's going to get fed up eventually of apologising over and over again.
He's like, us men, we get so fed up of apologising.
I'm like, oh, really? What for? What for? You know what? You know what you shouldn't do? Do something that you need to get fed up with apologising
I stand
for.
by my fellow brothers here.
You have
Sometimes
not done anything.
we can apologise and apologise and apologise, and you just let us string it out, don't you? You women.
If you went off and kissed somebody, I wouldn't expect you to apologise because all your stuff would be in a big fire in the front garden. You don't need to apologise. You would never speak to you again.
Oh, this is what we were saying like last week, wasn't it? How some of what this Fizz and Tyrone are going through is slightly relatable for us. And just that thing about apologising until we're blue in the face, I was thinking, it's hard to be a man sometimes.
It's so difficult to be a man, and you get nagged all the time.
You do
Take the
one
bins
little thing
out.
wrong.
Oh, forgot to put the bins out again.
They just hold it over us.
Have
Say
you-
we're
Here's a
sorry and we'll
question.
never do it again.
Here's a
What more do
question.
they want?
Here's a question: are you waiting for us to literally move house so you won't have to do that back
Don't
hedge
bring up the back hedge again.
that I've asked you to do for years?
I am not chopping. I'm going
And
to say
it's
I'm
been
putting my foot down.
documented.
I know.
It's been documented
Trimming
on
the
this
back- the
podcast
past 2
for
years at least of the
I've asked you
podcast.
to please, can you trim the hedge in the back of the garden, which is obscuring our neighbours' sunlight, and you don't care. And now you're telling me, literally, we're going to move house, so you
We're
don't have
moving
to
house. The 80-year-old woman who's moving in here can get up her ladder with a chainsaw and chop it down herself. Give me something to do. Right. They go to speed dial together. Fizz is there looking very glam and lovely and Jenny McAlpine-ish, dare I say it. And she wants to get this kiss out of the way first before they can have a proper
do it.
conversation.
She wants to discuss it.
Yeah.
Not kiss him.
No, she wants to talk about the kiss, and
Yeah.
that just ends up being the sole topic of conversation for the whole evening. It seems because she can't stop thinking about it.
No, I
He
don't
can't stop
blame
thinking
her.
about it. She can't.
They
She was
haven't
like,
really talked about it.
no. She's like, when you were kissing her, what were you thinking? Were
Yeah.
you thinking of me? Were you thinking stuff, Fizz? Were you thinking, oh, I feel guilty?
This was really interesting because this is the sort of thing that you would actually want to know.
Yeah. Did you plan it? And Tyrone said it was just happened. It shouldn't destroy the family. But Fizz just can't give up on the
No.
idea. And he's saying, look, I'm sorry, it was a mistake. But she's like, no, I can't do it. If Alina's living around here, it's always going to be on my mind. I'm not going to be able to forget about it. Do you think of her when we're in bed
Oh, that's
together?
horrible.
I mean, I want to know like how many times they've done
Been
it
in bed since
this has all
considering
come
that
out.
she was like, Tyrone, is it the sex that you were that got brought up? I don't imagine that she's jumped into bed with him since.
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe
Well,
they've
she's
had a bit
talking
of a
about
make-up
previously,
sex.
isn't she? Like, when we were in bed before, were you thinking about me or her?
Yeah, it is so. I feel
And
so
this-
bad for Fizz.
I feel so bad for Fizz, and it must be, like, really upsetting for Tyrone as well, because he's just done such a stupid thing, and he, like, didn't even think about any of this. He, like, put no thought into it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And suddenly
it's
now it's all
wrecked his
come
life.
home to roost. Like, yeah, what was I thinking? Yeah, do I think about her? What was my plan? I didn't bloody have one. And literally, none of this entered his mind.
No.
And does that make it better or worse?
And
Probably worse.
because it was such a tiny little slip up, that's meaningless slip up, and he thinks that he's apologised enough for it. because it
Yeah,
was
because
so...
in his head, nothing.
It was just something...
It was nothing.
Yeah.
But to Fizz, no, it wasn't. And I can really sympathise with both of them, because how can you
and I
reconcile these two completely different perspectives?
Yeah, and what we were talking about previously on the podcast about, like, are people going to be on Tyrone's side, are they going to be on Fizz's side and everything? It's like, there was a little bit of sympathy for Tyrone, I think
people are going to be like, oh, why does Fizz keep going on about it?
Well, people were saying that last week anyway, to be fair, weren't they? But I can, definitely see both sides of the argument here. And he was saying that I can't deal with this for the rest of our lives. Are you going to forgive me or not?
Oh, God, no. See, this is the thing. Like, I can understand Tyrone's perspective, but I really have my sympathy is with Fizz, because this would be...
If I had to pick a side, it'd have to be Fizz's. I mean, in a heartbeat, it would be.
Yeah.
But...
How could you cope with somebody who'd done this?
Yeah. So Tyrone has to go at Chesney later for interfering, because he finds out that it was Chesney what suggested the idea of the speed dial meal. Meanwhile, Fizz is talking to Maria in the cafe about it, and this is where she's again talking about feeling ugly, and she's the other thing that came
really
up in the
sad.
conversation with Tyrone is Fizz thinking that Alina is, you know, the younger, more beautiful model, and she's obviously everything that Fizz isn't, and does. If Fizz has a makeover to make herself more Alina-like, would Ty be interested?
Well, she was
in
like,
more?
"Oh, Maria, help me get new clothes and do my hair and makeup and stuff." Because obviously Maria used to date Tyrone, so obviously she has a good look that he likes, and she's more glamorous on the show than Fizz is.
Yeah. So Maria says, "Look, Tyrone's an idiot and everything, but at least he's come to his senses now. Alina's the villain here.
And
you
like,
and Tyrone need
won.
to stand up. Yeah, exactly. You two go together. You're good together. Just get Alina out of your life."
But isn't it a bit of a hollow? I mean, what has she won really?
Who?
Fizz. If she
Tyrone.
Yeah, but if she was saying this to me, oh, you know, you've won, I'd be like, I don't think I have.
It's the family, isn't it? It's everybody happy together. But she can't get out of her head, and then Kevin doesn't do much to help, does he? Because Kevin's there in the pub with Tyrone later saying, and then before he was saying,
they had a little argument.
Last week he was
other.
saying you need to make sure that this is absolutely what you want. Stay with Fizz, and today he was saying, look, you need to put the work in here.
Oh no, that was right. Yeah,
Fizz isn't gonna just forgive you just like that.
But also he say Tyrone was like, you had an affair.
Oh yeah, the Molly thing did
that got
kind of get brought up,
but it didn't get brought up at all. What the circumstances of that were.
No,
and so
Molly didn't actually get a name mentioned, did she?
And we mentioned it before recently, but Kevin slept with Tyrone's wife and they had a baby together, and Tyrone didn't know.
And that is Jack. Anyway, so Fizz and Maria head off home. Maria makes Fizz realise that Tyrone is a lovely bloke after all. Fizz sees Alina outside the shop and gives her a bit of a Paddington
Bear. Oh no,
she's
smelling the Gerberers.
No, the Gerberers came from Tracy's shop today. They were not some
That's
tat
like,
from Dad's.
Gerberers? What do you think I am?
Where did you get these from, you traitor? Fizz comes into the house and says, look, I'm really, really sorry, Tyrone. I want to make this work. And he's quite excited about this. However, there is one condition, and that's that he goes and kicks Alina out of Weatherfield, which he does he doesn't really try his best to do. He goes over to her, he pops over to Pop and says, look, you need to move away because I want to start again.
I shan't move.
No,
Why
she
should I
stands
move?
up to him, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She's
You've ruined
starting
my
to
life.
grow a bit of a spine, is Alina.
You can't tell me what to do. Never speak to me again.
Yeah, slams the door in his face.
I mean, I see it from her perspective as well.
Yeah.
But she's the harlot here, okay?
She is, because she was the only single one in there. So
she
one might say that she's...
No, Tyrone, your children, we cannot. And then the next minute she's like, oh, no. And then the next minute she's going, oh, why is everyone so mad at me?
Tyrone's the one that was unfaithful. She wasn't, but
I don't agree with that. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're single. If you get involved in someone else's relationship and you know that they're dating or are married or anything, you're also just as in the wrong.
She is in the wrong, but...
I don't care. You making excuses for her. There's no excuse.
I'm definitely not on her side.
I'm not one of these people that thinks that you can go off with whoever you like and it's not your responsibility. If you didn't know, that's a completely different thing. And you're just as much of a victim. But if you did know, shame on you.
I wish that she would be a bit more... I said it before, Alina, I wish she'd be a little bit more femme fatale and hard.
I kind of like her to turn a bit evil now.
Yeah.
Go a bit bunny boilery or something.
Yeah. I mean, now it definitely doesn't feel like the story's over.
She's
we were saying last
Tyrone,
week.
now it's on.
we were saying last week, is this over for it now? And you said, yes, it feels like it's over. And they've
Well, I
got
said
over
I
this
hope
little
it
hump. You
is.
said you hoped it was, but the
You were
way
like,
things have been left
no.
this week, it certainly doesn't seem to be. I mean, it ends up as a happy place where Tyrone and Fizz are going to book a breakaway for her and the girls, and him. But, Alina is still there on the periphery, and the final shot of the week is Tyrone sitting in the lounge looking like
glum.
Yeah, looking glum.
Oops.
He hasn't got everything that he wants.
He hasn't got anything. At the end of the day, he's got back where he started, and he's wrecked everything because he doesn't. He could have been friends with Alina if that's what he wanted. Not anymore. He had a perfectly happy and stable relationship, even though he said he didn't like the Piccadilly.
Unhappy.
Whatever. Then do something about it. Don't make it worse, you dumb idiot.
Oh, I just can tell that this, as much as I'm enjoying the fact that these characters have got a storyline at last, it just feels like it's going to go in ways that I'm not happy
No,
with.
I know. The thing is, right, so Tyrone's gone to Alina and said, get out of Weatherfield because you're ruining everything.
And she said, I'm never going to speak to you again, which is soap code for by this
See you
time
next
week. Yeah, we'll be making the beast with two
licking
packs.
each other's tongues. But, no, I was thinking, if she plays this right, Alina could turn the whole street against Fizz and Tyrone. Oh, Tyrone, he came on to me and he told me that he was so great and he loved me. And then they said they would kill me if I don't leave Weatherfield. They're so mean. And already I'm so sad because I'm from Romania. I don't know anyone around here. And I just want to make friends. And Brexit was so sad. And then everyone would be like, poor Alina, Fizz and Tyrone are so mean, bullying this poor Romanian orphan whose dog has just died.
And it's not the first time that the street has turned against Tyrone.
She was forced to drink tripe soup by this
The last straw.
horrible gravy-haired man.
Well, I think that Maria having that conversation with Alina on Thursday, is just going to make her double down and decide, no, I am going to have Tyrone. If Maria's saying I can't have him, then I think that's inadvertently fueled that fire.
If I was Alina and I wanted to be a manipulator, I would definitely use this to my advantage to get everybody to be really mad about and kind of support me.
I don't know
but
why.
But then again, if then she turns from that to going off with Tyrone, she'll lose everybody's.
I don't know why she's so desperate for it to be Tyrone. Are there no other guys who like cars and dogs on the street or in Weatherfield off the street? Maybe cast your net a little bit further, Alina.
It's such a rare combination of interest in a man.
Yeah.
How will she ever find another man who likes those specific things that she also really likes?
I kind of need. I don't know where I want this to go, because I don't really hate Tyrone yet, but I feel like I should hate him more than I do. So maybe he needs to do something completely unforgivable. I don't know.
I know.
What?
See, at the beginning I was like, no, I don't like this. I prefer this not to happen. But now I'm like, burn it down, burn it all down. Tyrone and Alina, shag on the kitchen table. Fizz, stab her in the face. Ruby and Hope, go and burn down the flat with Seb inside. Abby has to rescue him. Everyone shuns everybody else. The street's on fire.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't like the fact that some people are not on Fizz's side, whatever happens. People are still very much blaming Fizz and saying that she's being unreasonable, that she can't let it go. I don't either at all.
I don't see it.
Fizz.
And sometimes I can understand people's point of view and they say something I don't agree with, but this one I'm like, I don't see how you're watching the same programme as me. If you think it's Fizz's fault, like how is she supposed to know? If you're talking
because
about...
people have built up a picture of her being a naggy.
Because he doesn't take the bins out or trim the hedge when he says he would. Do you see what I mean, though? It's like, if he's saying I'm unhappy in my relationship, then he should do something about it and try to, like, energise it or say something, have a heart-to-heart with her, not just go off and kiss somebody and then say, oh, it was because I was sad. I don't think he thought he was sad until he kissed Alina and then he trying to think of the excuses as to why he did it. That's what I think.
considering, if you look at all the other relationships on the street and how tumultuous they are, he really should be considering himself very lucky at what a cushy setup he's got. And he has always wanted just a stable family, considering his childhood and how he was dragged up by Jackie and, being dragged from place to place. He always wanted just a bit of stability, and now he's got it, and he's saying, "Oh, I'm not happy there." Well, sorry, Tyrone.
I think he should get a dog.
Anyway.
Call it Alina.
We've been putting off talking about the boring Faye storyline for long enough.
Faye's nervous, Michael, on Thursday because it's her plea hearing. How could you be so cold?
Yeah, sorry, I've lost all interest in this.
She assaulted Ray. No, she assaulted Adam and she thought it was Ray and she admitted it. And now she's got to pay the price. She's going to a plea hearing. She's going to plead
1 year in jail.
Guilty. Craig, she's like, "Oh, I could go to prison." And Craig's like, "Yeah, maybe. Don't worry, Ray's been charged with sexual assault. So if he pleads guilty, that could be mitigating circumstances for you and it might actually work out quite well." So they come back later and she's pled and they've got 2 weeks and then she's going to be sentenced. And she's worrying about this. How am I going to work out? How am I going to cope in prison? That's the best case scenario, get a year in prison, apparently. I don't think that's true. I don't think she's going to go to prison. I don't know. So they have this,
as I said earlier, how would we tell?
Yeah, they have this felon's chat in speed dial with Sally and Abby both telling Faye about what great times they had in prison. And Sally's going, "Do you know what? They've even got yoga now because I instigated that. I'm the one. So if you go there, tell them you know Sally and she's the one that started yoga and you'll get really great treatment. You'll get an extra towel as well." And they're like, "Don't worry about it. You're not alone. We're here to listen if you need a sympathetic ear." And really, if there was a utopian society in which, prison wasn't about retribution, it was about rehabilitation and helping people to better themselves, Coronation Street is that place because everyone's been to prison there. It's no detriment on your life. It's no hindrance. Nothing bad has happened to anybody who's been in prison. They've never been turned down for anything or told they can't do something because they've been to prison. It's like no stigma whatsoever.
Now, occasionally some people haven't been able to be the licensee of the Rovers. Like Jack. If
you go to prison, the worst case scenario, Faye, is you can't be the licensee of the Rovers.
Yeah.
And I know that's everyone's dream.
Your partner's name will have to go over the door instead.
So, they're like, it's actually quite cool and chill in prison. So she says, "Look, you guys are a bit different to me. You were an addict and Sally, you were set up. So I've got myself into this situation. So this is going to be worse for me." They carry on trying to help her out, and then Craig comes along, and he
didn't go along to her plea hearing because he was too busy.
He's doing police work.
Maybe he was doing his OCD stuff. Maybe he was counting things.
Oh well, that's not ever going to come up again.
Nope.
She gets mad and strops off, and then he on Friday wants to take her out for a meal, and she's like no, and he thinks he's being snubbed, so he goes off and huff again, and Faye goes to prison to see Gary and ask him what it's like, and can I stay in a room just to see what it's like? And he's like, "No, are you crazy? This is a man's prison. You'll be eaten alive."
It's so stupid that Gary is still in prison, honestly.
Like, where's Johnny?
I wanted to see Johnny. We haven't seen Johnny since he had his pills. That was kind of interesting, that story. That little Johnny in prison storyline feels like it should have been a lot bigger than it was.
I know.
It was just a little side thing, and I thought they were only keeping Gary in prison so that Johnny could have a friend. But now that's gone off the boil. It's just really odd that he's still there when he didn't do it. I know they've kept him in because he didn't tell the truth or whatever. It's bizarre.
Apparently now it's a crime to lie for police in court. So so she says, "I've been keeping Craig at arm's length because I won't see him for a year." And he says, "That is the complete opposite of what you should be doing. You should tell Craig and be open with him and he can decide what happens to the relationship." So she invites him round later and he thinks he's going to get dumped, and this is the second time this week that the phrase "punching above my weight" was mentioned, and it's really weird because Coronation Street doesn't normally like to draw attention to the fact that they hook up really hot girls with decidedly average looking guys.
Harsh.
Average is fine. I'm average, you're above average.
No, shut up. You have to get a little compliment every time.
Oh, I'm so sorry that I compliment my husband. It is true.
Not above
average. The difference is that men, there's a limit to what you guys can do. Whereas like a girl can go like from average to like average with eyelashes. So you see what I mean? But anyway, this is Coronation Street in a nutshell, isn't it? Just like all the women are ridiculously beautiful, and the guys are just there. And he says, "Yeah, I think I'm going to be dumped." And she says, "No, sorry, I've been so distant, but I think I'm going to prison." So I was worried about it. And he says, "I'm going to stick by you no matter what." And she says, "I love you." He says it "I love you." And she's like, "Oh, I love you too." But
Ooh.
Can I just say, this is all very nice and everything. How is it going to go down at the station when it turns out that Officer Tinker has a girlfriend in the clinker? Tinker in the clinker. Does it
sounds like a little bit rude, maybe.
Do they care? Is this a thing, or are all the police just like in love with jailbirds?
Maybe. I don't know. Oh my gosh, I couldn't care less about this. Faye and Craig, they're a couple that we've seen their relationship kind of blossom very, very incredibly slowly over the past 5 years, and then we saw them start to go out, and then they broke up for a bit, and then they're back together for a bit, and we've not seen them as a couple. I don't know what they're like as a couple, because they don't ever have any scenes together, so I don't care about them potentially splitting up. But the whole "I love you" thing didn't mean anything, because we'd not seen any. There's been no hint of any kind of romance between them.
I tell you what it was like. It was like
go out.
When you have a cactus and it grows a flower, and you're like, oh, "What's this? My boring cactus is growing a flower," and then it blooms, and it's like, "Oh, that's weird. I don't like it."
What's wrong with a flowery cactus?
Flowering cacti, they always just look weird, like it's glued on, and they're not very nice colours. I'm very critical of flowering cacti. I'm sorry, it's just
that's a really
Google
specific
flowering
thing.
Cacti and tell me that those are not highly inadequate flowers.
I think they're nice.
Well,
anyway,
we'll have to disagree on this.
Is Faye going to go to prison? You say no.
Who cares?
I say yeah. I think we both say who cares to this. Maybe. The way that they were talking about it this week makes it seem like it's inevitable that it's going to happen, but whatever Ray says, so maybe. I don't care. I really don't care whether she goes to prison or not. I don't care whether her and Craig are together or not.
I'm just Googling flowering cacti, and they all look like the sort of flower that water comes out of and squirts you in the face. Don't they?
Maybe a little bit. Smell my cactus.
No, I don't trust you.
I thought the scene with Abby and Sally was kind of nice, but I just, yeah.
Whatever. Move on.
Completely ambivalent to all of this.
Leanne of Duty.
I can't remember. I literally can't remember what happened with this week, because this is Monday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Nick's talking to David about the sorry state of affairs that Leanne's got herself into, and he says, "Look, don't go advertising this, but I just need to get it off my chest." He also, Nick, sees Simon and says, "So this bloke that Leanne's seeing, remember when Harvey was hiding in a bedroom last week?
He saw the coat."
And Simon tells him, "No, you don't need to worry about it." Simon goes up to see Leanne and says, "Oh, I told Nick about not going to France last week at Christmas." And Leanne says, "Well, Nick can't find about the truth about this situation that I'm in, the extent of it, because he'll get dragged into this problem that I'm in." So this is why she's keeping Nick at arm's length. She doesn't want him involved in all the dodgy business. So she's doing it for his own good. Simon tells Nick that Leanne is definitely seeing someone else, sorry. And that's why he needs to cool his jets for a little bit.
See, this is exactly what Faye does to Craig later in the week.
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't want to go out with you, and it's secretly to protect you from me."
Yeah.
I
Simon
hate this
tells
trope
Leanne
of soaps. This is my most
Natasha
hated.
sees Nick. This is boring, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Natasha's getting closer to Nick. She can see that Nick's struggling and says, "Look, you can stay with me for as long as you want." So Nick goes and tells Leanne this and says, "No, I don't want to stay at Natasha's though. I want to be with you." And then Harvey sends Leanne a message, and Nick reckons it's from this fancy piece of hers, and she clams up when Nick asks her about it. And then when he asks her if she still loves him, she won't say anything.
Oh.
Yeah, there was nothing new here this week, was there? Nothing at all, particularly. We didn't even get to see Harvey in the flesh this week. I'm really surprised how little we've seen of Harvey, considering what a fuss they made about getting Will Mellor on Coronation Street, and here's the new big bad, and he's actually a relatively effective villain in the few scenes we've seen him in. I thought we'd get to know him a little bit more.
I think they're building up to something.
I think that I assume they are, but where they've had the proper big bad villains, and I'm the Alan Bradleys, even like the Callums, the Phelan, obviously, the John Lindsays. I'm just thinking about seeing it on ITV3 at the moment. We've got to know the villains a lot more. And this is just some kind of guy that turns up and looks a bit threatening every now and then, kind of grurs.
It'll take a while to get there.
Yeah, but I don't know if we are. I don't know if we're gonna, get a fully rounded character.
What's the point of getting somebody
Harvey
and going on about how great? I guess they did the same with Tony Maudsley, where they went, "Oh look," and then it's taken them a long time to sort of decide what to do with him.
But at least when they hired him, they knew that he was going to be a regular. But I don't know with him. It's odd the way this is going. But maybe there'll be more next week. I don't know.
Harvey
and Gemma.
Maybe next year we'll be like, oh, do you remember when Harvey was a drug dealer and now he's just like the orphanage director?
Gemma, you've landed the Kelly story this week, aren't you? Lucky.
Ooh.
No, this is fine.
On Monday, Toya and Imran are feeling hopeful about social services. They're going to find out if they can foster lovely Kelly. And Toya's like, I remember when I was young, I was a right scallywag just like Kelly.
Oh yeah, she goes and has a little reminiscence. It's like she's been reading a Coripedia page on Monday.
I've been watching Classic, and
she said the first thing I did on this street was I lifted a power tool out the back of somebody's van. It's like, yes, it was. And we just saw it just recently on ITV3, didn't we? I think it was Bill Webster's that she stole.
Yeah.
And then she talks about getting when I was 16. She said I hitched a ride to London to try and find my real dad. So that was a nice little callback. I appreciate it.
And Imran's like, what?
So she feels some kind of special kinship with Kelly.
Yeah. So later on, they find out the social services have agreed.
Hurrah.
Hooray! They're chuffed. They get a speed dial to celebrate.
Where else?
And I thought it was quite interesting because really, when Kelly finds out that Imran used to own speed dial, it's like suddenly money bags appear in her eyes. I don't know if this was what I was supposed to get out of it, but it really did feel like she was going, ka-ching, daddy's rich, daddy's rich.
Maybe.
But
I don't think I got that.
It tied into, actually, what the point of it was. It tied into Rana because he used to own it because Rana owned it and etc, etc. And she's like, oh, Ron, is that the sister who died in the factory? And, oops.
Yeah, Imran kind of clams up, doesn't he?
It's like, don't apologise that my sister died and your dad killed her. She goes off to the loo.
It kind of puts a...
Very awkward.
Yeah.
She goes off to the toilet and Imran and Toya are talking. He's like, oh, God, what am I supposed to do? Maybe we should go home and talk about it. And Kelly comes back and he says, sorry about snapping at you. Whatever your dad did or didn't do, I promise it will never affect the way I treat you. You daughter of a scumbag.
Yeah, so that was kind of it, really. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it wasn't very much. I liked that the Rick thing has come out in the open because Rick didn't actually have anything to do with Rana's death, did he? I think if I'm remembering this right, I'm having to cast my memory back quite a few years now. It was just Gary that dropped a roof on her head, but everybody thinks that it's Rick.
Yeah, and Rick's dead and Gary killed him.
But I'm glad that it's kind of come out now and Imran has said, I don't hold it against you because
he's
otherwise
already said this is what annoyed me about this. This is not the first time this conversation has come up. Because he said this to her originally. Like,
yeah, but
it might come up that I think your dad killed my sister. And she's like, oh no, that's terrible. And he's like, well, we'll see what happens.
I know, I think they needed to mention it.
It just feels like every conversation they're ever going to have somehow is going to turn around to Rana in some obscure way. Like, they managed to make it about Rana just sitting in speed dial. What's next? They watch Casualty and he'll go like, oh yeah, my sister, she was a nurse and your dad killed her. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. And then they'll watch last week's Corrie and go, oh, Nina and Asha are really good together, but don't call them a lesbian because that's a label. My sister was a lesbian and your dad killed her.
No, I think that
they'll watch like a wedding.
I think that my
sister was going to get
married.
There is some potential and your dad killed her on her wedding day.
I think there is some potential here. I do really enjoy the giddiness and excitement that Imran and Toya show about adopting this girl, fostering, sorry. Mm-hmm. Let's give them some scenes together, maybe, The
other thing that's weird about this is that where's her mum? And what happened to her house?
No, is it? No, that's the actress's name. She's just swanned off, isn't she?
She just buggered off and left her kid there. And that we saw them in
Maybe Gary's killed her as well.
In a giant house.
Did week?
There's assets. The family had assets.
Have we seen their house?
Yes, it had a big kitchen
Don't remember that at all.
with like a breakfast bar.
I've got
it was all white and
no
black.
memory of
That's
the
what I
Neelan
remember anyway.
residence.
But I'm pretty sure that they went there. So the family has assets. So why I don't understand why the daughter is in foster care. Where the mother is. Can you just dump your child into the foster care system with no penalties or consideration?
Harry Hewitt took Lucille to the orphanage.
Well, he was a man, Michael. They can't be expected to look after children.
Yeah, he'd have thought that Emma would have had the
Because surely
instincts.
she's gonna. The thing is also, Gary stole a load of her dad's money that should rightfully be hers.
Very true.
So Maria and her fancy rose gold accessory apartment, all of that was paid for with blood money.
Yeah. Mm.
And Toya and Imran can use that and take themselves off down to the White Company and get themselves some really tasteful candles and some throws.
No, they just need to get themselves a proper house. They're still living
and then they
with
can
Ryan,
put their
aren't
lovely
they?
throws in it.
Alia. Right. Oh, I thought that we had quite a decent discussion about this, considering that this week was...
It's usually the
subpar.
ones that are not that great that cause the most amount of discussion. And
Yeah.
I will say that the Billy, Paul and Todd story is far more interesting on paper than somehow it managed to be in real life, which was weird.
Yeah, that's probably why they gave it the go-ahead, wasn't it, really? But it
fell flat.
So didn't work. And it
wasn't just us as well.
And I mean, the fact that lots of people on our Twitter poll are gunning for... are wanting Billy and Paul to get together means that there must be an awful lot of the viewership that are finding it engaging. I mean, not everything's going to appeal to us all the time, but anyway, at least we had the funeral thing at the end of the week. Friday definitely perked things up.
I was so happy with Friday's episode, especially the stroke of genius of having Todd working at the funeral parlour, and I have to say one of my most things that I enjoy the most at the moment is going on to Twitter and seeing how mad people are about Todd and how much they hate him. It's brilliant.
I am going to rate this week's Coronation Street 3 cradles of filth out of 5, and that would have been a lot lower had today's episode carried on the same standard as Thursday's.
Well, if you add one more, then that's what Chesney and Gemma have got in their bedroom.
Very true.
I'm going to give it 3 as well because it really didn't deserve more than that. But Friday's was definitely a higher mark than 3.
Yeah.
But Thursday's was not good enough to be a 3. I'm going to give it 3 syllables in Nina's name. Nina.
Nina.
Nina. Dun, 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 dun.
Character of the week is a tricky one this week, though, isn't it? I'm going to say maybe Todd.
Yeah, Todd.
Week.
I was going to say Todd.
Because I enjoyed his scheming. I enjoyed
so
not being able
confusing.
to know. Yeah, I enjoyed the confusion.
I don't know. This is the trouble. I'm wondering. Are
we supposed to be
giving
confused?
him more credit? Like, are we making this character more intriguing than he actually is? Like, is he just as plain as he is saying? And we're like, whoa, what next from Todd? It's like, nothing. This is what I wanted all along. And we're like, haha, we know your tricks, Todd. What are you going to do?
I don't know.
Yeah, but I find him endlessly fascinating, and Gareth Peirce is doing a fantastic job. He is the most interesting character out of the 3.
I'm just trying to think, is there anybody other than Todd this week? I don't know if there is. I mean, Fizz was good on... Dev and Fizz were both good on Friday, but I wouldn't say they...
Alina.
No.
Faye.
No, stop it.
Anyone in the Bailey
telling me names that
storyline.
clearly are not the character of the week this week. No.
Michael was pretty sad.
No.
Grace.
No, okay,
Glory.
it's Todd. Todd is my character of the week this week, and 3 cradles of filth. And that is that for this week's Coronation Street.